While others set sail to find One Piece, Kaido set sail to find a good place to drink. The grand line remains the same, only the enemy's bad luck has skyrocketed. Kaido appears, not to train, not to talk, but to teach the world how to lie down properly, while the enemy is still buffing their stats. Kaido has already finished fighting and is back to drink more. Yonko, Marine, Celestial Dragons. Sounds familiar, but let's fight together quickly. This isn't a journey to become stronger, but a journey where Kaido makes others weaker. The ultimate challenge begins with us. Awesome and entertaining. You'll be hooked. Currently, Kyuzen, Garp, and Fujitora were all shocked by the news Kaido revealed. The world government was hiding such a vast darkness that was unexpected for them. However, they knew this wasn't the time to dwell on such things. They were now facing the incredibly terrifying Kaido, the Beast King. Kaido, in his beast form, calmly said, "I don't need to use the Rinnegan to deal with you." Rinnegan, is that strange eye of yours called the Rinnegan? Kyuzen commented, observing Kaido's unusual gaze. Garp and Fujitora both frowned. According to Kaido's words, he didn't intend to use his full power against them. As top-tier marine forces, they were being completely underestimated. Boom! The battle erupted again. Kaido pinned Kyuzen, Garp, and Fujitora down, forcing them into a passive, defensive position. 2 hours later, Kyuzen, Garp, and Fujitora lay on the ground, their bodies impaled by more than 10 branches, their life force being relentlessly drained. As 3 powerful Emperor-level energy beams poured into him, Kaido's right eye's 3-Tamo Rinnegan rapidly rotated, eventually transforming into a 4-Tamo Rinnegan. The moment he entered the 4-Tamo Rinnegan, his ocular power increased by over 30%. Kaido struck the ground with his spiked club, causing the surrounding earth to crack. He chuckled, saying, "Excellent, this trip has been fruitful." From the 4-Tamo Rinnegan to the 6-Tamo Rinnegan, I can even supply artificial soldiers. When I reach the 7-Tamo Rinnegan, I'll hunt down stronger individuals again. Anyway, regarding that weapon, it's extremely important to them and the world government. There can be no mistakes. Marcus Mars Saint also said similarly, the Beast Pirates seem to be doing nothing, but in reality, they're closely watching our actions. Otherwise, they wouldn't have seized such a good opportunity. Now, we're worried about whether Kaido of the Beast Pirates will send people to interfere again. Shepherd Repeater said grimly, "As soon as we get our hands on the Holy Mother's flame weapon, we'll immediately launch a devastating attack on Wano. We can't let Kaido of the Beast Pirates continue to operate with impunity." Suddenly, a panicked marine rushed in through the gate, frantically reporting, "Lord Gorose, something terrible has happened. Marine headquarters has been attacked." Many marine officers, including Vice Admiral Garp, Admiral Fujitora, and even Marshal Kyuzen, have all perished. What? Shepherd Repeater, Topman Valkyrie Saint, and Marcus Mars Saint all stood up, unable to remain seated any longer. If the Marines' report was true, then the Marines' losses this time would undoubtedly be several times greater than during the Summit War. Marcus Mars Saint waved the Marine back, saying, "What should we do now?" Unless something unexpected happens, the attacker of Marine headquarters is Kaido of the 100 Beasts. Only Kaido of the Beasts possesses such terrifying fighting power. Not to mention the loss of a rear admiral or vice admiral. Just one admiral or a fleet admiral would be enough to cause another major upheaval in the Navy. Disgusting. Topman Valkyrie Saint angrily shouted, "For the world government, this is simply a great humiliation. Now is not the time to talk about these things. We must quickly stabilize the Navy's internal affairs, otherwise the Navy will collapse." Shepherd Repeater knew the situation had reached an extremely serious level. He had to make adjustments quickly. Now was not the time to think about losses, but to restore order as quickly as possible. Topman Valkyrie Saint, having calmed down slightly from his anger, said, "Admiral Sakazuki and Borsalino are currently in office. By then, quickly have Sakazuki fill the position of Marine Admiral, and for the remaining 2 vacant Admiral positions, let Momusagi and Tokikake fill the reserve roles. We must act as quickly as possible, thoroughly stabilize the situation, and then wage war against Kaido of the Beasts. Even if it means a tragic and painful price to pay, we must eliminate Kaido of the Beasts." Shepherd Repeater and Marcus Mars Saint both agreed with this opinion. Time was extremely pressing for their world government. Finally, Shepherd Repeater sighed and said, "Who exactly is this Kaido of the Beasts? Or will our world government ultimately be wiped out by Kaido?" "You can't say such things, Lord M. will," Topman Valkyrie Saint immediately warned. If it weren't for this crucial moment, Shepherd Repeater's words alone would be enough to warrant punishment from Lord M. Marcus Mars Saint rubbed his temples and said, "Our world government has stood strong for 800 years without falling, and we won't fall just because of the appearance of a beast Kaido. If the Holy Mother's flame experiment is successful, then there will be no more beast Kaido in this world." "I was just being impatient and spoke carelessly," Shepherd Repeater replied. "Whether it's the Revolutionary Army or Beast Kaido, they will ultimately disappear from history." A day later, Sakazuki and Borsalino returned with their team, their eyes wide with disbelief. They couldn't believe that after just one trip, the entire Marine headquarters, Marineford, had been wiped out by Beast Kaido. Kizaru, both cowardly and terrified, exclaimed, "How terrifying! It's a good thing I was out on a mission. Otherwise, if I had been among the dead, I would have been on the list." Even now, Kizaru hadn't recovered from the shock. It was truly terrifying. Kyuzen, Fujitora, and even Mr. Garp were all dead. Just thinking about it made Kizaru's scalp tingle. Cold sweat poured down his face. Was Kaido of the Beasts now slaughtering admirals as easily as ordinary strongmen? Kizaru thought it through. From now on, if he encountered Kaido of the Beasts, he wouldn't hesitate for a moment. He'd turn and run. Life was paramount. Sakazuki, on the other hand, had an equally grim expression, and deep down, he was also terrified. Although Sakazuki disliked Kyuzen's strength was roughly on par with his own. Sakazuki clenched his fists, his resolve unwavering. "Borsalino, we cannot surrender. Kaido of the Beasts must be eliminated, even if it costs us our lives." "I understand, old man." Kizaru merely responded verbally. He wouldn't risk his life. He wasn't out of his mind to go and fight Kaido of the 100 Beasts. Wouldn't it be better to survive? Sakazuki could do whatever he liked, however he pleased. Not far away, Vice Admiral Tsuru sat on the ground in agony. His colleagues Sengoku and Garp had all left, and he shook his head, saying, "All right, I'll officially retire too. At least I can enjoy my old age." Vice Admiral Tsuru also realized that the current situation was beyond his control. He should leave the troublesome matters to the world government. Indeed, in the face of absolute power, no plan is ever truly effective. At this moment, Gorosei Topman Valkyrie Saint arrived at Marineford headquarters, looking at the dejected Marines. Vice Admiral Momonga respectfully led the way, requesting instructions. "Lord Gorosei." Topman Valkyrie Saint, with his arms crossed, swept his gaze across the crowd and said, "I know that such an incident has been a great blow to everyone, but the Navy's operations must continue. Now I will issue the latest appointments to you all." As soon as Gorosei Topman Valkyrie Saint finished speaking, everyone present tensed up, except for Borsalino, who remained indifferent, having already made up his mind to deal with the situation. Their navy had experienced a series of upheavals in a short period, arguably the most unusual and difficult in 8 to 100 years. Deep down, they were filled with terror and fear, all stemming from Kaido of the Beasts. Topman Valkyrie Saint continued, "For 800 years, the Navy and the world government have faced their greatest humiliation. And the enemy, Kaido of the 100 Beasts, must not be eliminated. The entire world will sooner or later be destroyed. As representatives of justice, you must set a good example and take the lead, resolutely pursuing the goal of eliminating Kaido of the 100 Beasts." For Topman Valkyrie Saint, saying these words didn't require any preparation. All that mattered was that the Navy worked diligently. Topman Valkyrie Saint continued, "The position of Admiral will be vacated by Sakazuki, and the 2 vacant Admiral positions will be filled by the reserve Admirals Momosagi and Tokikake." As soon as Topman Valkyrie Saint finished speaking, the Navy personnel present began to murmur amongst themselves. Gorosei Topman Valkyrie Saint's order signifies that their Navy is about to embark on a different path. Such a rapid change in the number of admirals and generals in such a short period is unprecedented in the Navy's history. Sakazuki stepped forward, his voice firm and unwavering. "I will not disappoint everyone's expectations. I will lead the Navy to completely eliminate Kaido of the Beasts and uphold justice to the very end." Very good, Sakazuki." Topman Valkyrie Saint was quite satisfied with Sakazuki. At least this guy was quite obedient. Unlike Kyuzen, who was rather disobedient, this was also good. Kyuzen being killed by Kaido of the Beasts allowed Sakazuki to take the reins, making it easier for them to control the navy. Waiting until Kaido of the Beasts is defeated, it's also necessary to reform the internal system of the navy. For many years, the navy has been striving for increasing independence, something the Gorosei cannot allow. Sakazuki knows that he now has a very heavy responsibility, arguably the most difficult period in the navy's history, but Sakazuki believes he can do even better than Kyuzen. Kizaru, on the other hand, had already anticipated this outcome. After all, the position of admiral couldn't possibly go to him unless everyone else was dead. However, it's good that Sakazuki stepped forward, as it doesn't burden him with too much responsibility, and it's not something Kizaru wanted. Sakazuki turned around and shouted to the Navy soldiers present. The Marineford headquarters is now in a dilapidated state. Therefore, the first thing the old man, will do upon assuming the position of Fleet Admiral is to relocate the Marine headquarters, establishing the G1 branch in the New World as the new headquarters. Directly confronting the Beast Pirates will be our Marine strategic direction from now on. Iron-blooded Sakazuki wouldn't fear Kaido of the Beast Pirates. Even if it meant death, he would fight to the end. Topman Valkyrie Saint was very pleased with Sakazuki's decision. At least he didn't need to remind him of this point. The Gorosei had already proposed relocating the Marine headquarters beforehand. However, that bastard Kyuzen simply refused. Now it's good. At least everything is starting to return to normal. And there's the Holy Mother's Flame of Annihilation, a weapon of national destruction. A day later, the news spread throughout the New World, directly causing a great uproar. Because the content of the news was so shocking, it directly made everyone's eyes widen in disbelief. It can be said that the entire world's situation has completely changed. Initially, the world government intentionally suppressed the spread of the news, but due to Morgan's series of maneuvers, the events were all leaked out at once. The result was that it caused panic among all the people on the Grand Line. The war between the Supernova Alliance and the Blackbeard Pirates, the battle for the Bullet Island, and the most terrifying and horrific event was the destruction of Marineford, the Marine headquarters. It can be said that the last event was the most terrifying. On a certain island, the heavily damaged Blackbeard pirates came there to regroup. Blackbeard Teach, with a scar on his stomach, looked at the latest news report and laughed evilly, saying, "Ha ha ha, I thought our campaign would be the biggest one. But I didn't expect Kaido of the Beast Pirates to be the real big shot. He killed Marine Admiral Kyuzen, Admiral Fujitora, and Hirogarp, significantly weakening the Marine's existing forces." Furthermore, although Blackbeard Teach was smiling on the surface, deep down he felt intense fear of Kaido of the Beast Pirates. What kind of monster was he? He slaughtered the Marines as if it were child's play, killing his way to Marineford headquarters and wiping out 3 top-tier fighters. Lafitte, sitting beside him, said with a pale and weary face, "Captain Teach, we lost 3 men this time. This is a huge loss for our Blackbeard pirates as a whole." Ha ha ha, Blackbeard Teach chuckled uglily in response, saying, "Who knew those little brats could finally unleash new power? It's a pity about Douglas Bullet." Blackbeard Teach felt immense pain at the thought of Douglas Bullet's loss. After all, Douglas Bullet's fighting power was incredibly formidable. The loss of Douglas Bullet had a significant impact on the Blackbeard pirates as a whole. There were also the other 2 losses, Corrupt King and Beryl. Now, the Blackbeard pirates are left with only Shiryu of the Rain, Lafitte, Burgess, Van Augur, Doc Q, and Devon. Therefore, Blackbeard Teach could only once again choose to cower and hide, not daring to show his face, otherwise he would truly attract attention, and that would be very troublesome. Shiryu of the Rain, wearing a full armband and smoking a cigar, said, "Teach, right now, you have no hope of becoming the Pirate King. However, there's one more way. Join the Beast Pirates. At least the Beast Pirates get the meat, and we can get the broth. It's not like we'll end up with nothing and risking our lives." Shiryu of the Rain knew that his reminder would somewhat offend Blackbeard Teach, but it was a matter of survival. Times have changed. With a figure like Kaido of the Beast Pirates, everyone else is just decoration. Indeed, after Shiryu of the Rain finished speaking, a hint of darkness flickered in Blackbeard Teach's eyes, but it quickly disappeared. For him, Shiryu of the Rain was an indispensable and crucial fighting force, and currently, besides himself, the strongest being. If even Shiryu of the Rain were lost, then Blackbeard Teach would truly be back to square one. Lafitte, Burgess, Van Augur, Q, and Devon didn't dare say anything. Their captain, Blackbeard Teach, hadn't spoken yet. Regarding Shiryu of the Rain, Blackbeard Teach chuckled and said, "Hey Shiryu, you said that, and we should temporarily lie low for a while, letting the beast pirates and the world government clash. Then we can sit back and reap the benefits." As for risky ventures, Blackbeard Teach didn't dare do anything now, especially with Beast Kaido. Anything involving Beast Kaido meant he had to leave immediately. Just like when Straw Hat Luffy transformed into that bizarre form, Blackbeard Teach, sensing something was wrong, immediately fled with his subordinates. After all, even Blackbeard Teach valued his own life. In Blackbeard Teach's view, as long as they were alive, everything still had a chance. On the other side, on the Supernova Alliance's territory, Ace, Marco, and Yamato were all present. Marco said with a serious expression, "I didn't expect Kaido of the 100 Beasts to attack the Marine headquarters at Marineford, killing the Admiral, and even the Hero Garp." That's right. Trafalgar Law also responded with great admiration. Now he only had one goal, to kill Doflamingo. As long as he could kill Doflamingo, then even death wouldn't matter. Conversely, Yamato didn't want to pay too much attention to her father Kaido's affairs, but instead focused on the Straw Hat Luffy, curiously asking, "By the way, Luffy, what form were you in before? Why were you able to use so many different fighting styles?" Haha, Straw Hat Luffy replied with a laugh, "That's what I call my free form, which is my Gear 5. You little brat, don't be so arrogant. I'll surpass you sooner or later," Kid retorted defiantly. After all, he couldn't accept being surpassed by Straw Hat Luffy. Turning to Carol and Hawkins, he reminded them, "Right now, we should be considering how to avoid encountering the beast pirates, and how to escape after we do. That's exactly what we need to consider." Capone Beach nodded slightly in agreement with Hawkins' sermon, responding, "Apple loudly reminded us, if that really doesn't work, we should join the beast pirates. At least that way we can save our lives." As soon as Appo said that, several people present instantly became annoyed, including Kid and Straw Hat Luffy. After all, neither of them could possibly be subservient to anyone else. They both wanted to become the Pirate King. Straw Hat Luffy stood up, hands on his hips, and loudly declared, "I will never become someone else's subordinate. I am the one who wants to become the Pirate King." "You damn Straw Hat Kid, what are you saying? The Pirate King title won't go to you, it's mine." Kid also stood up and retorted to Straw Hat Luffy. He feared Kaido of the 100 Beasts, but that didn't mean he feared Straw Hat Luffy. Even when Straw Hat Luffy transformed into that strange form, Kid wasn't afraid. Because after his battle with Douglas Bullet, Kid had begun to vaguely sense the awakening of his Magneto-type Devil Fruit. Waiting until the true power of the Devil Fruit awakens, his strength can once again be enhanced. Therefore, according to Kid, there's absolutely no need to give Straw Hat Luffy any face. Straw Hat Luffy directly used his face to firmly confront Kid, saying steadfastly, "I'm the one who wants to become the Pirate King." As Straw Hat Luffy and Kid continued to argue, the onlookers felt utterly helpless. At this moment, such a scene was completely meaningless. Trafalgar Law, leaning back in his chair, silently remarked, "They're really two idiots. Even Kaido, the Beast King, doesn't know how to live, and they're still arguing here. It's incredibly boring." Straw Hat Luffy and Kid simultaneously turned their heads, staring at Trafalgar Law. Straw Hat Luffy called out, "The Law." Kid angrily shouted, "Trafalgar Law, are you looking for death?" As for Luffy and Kid's furious anger, Trafalgar Law chose to ignore it. After all, under these circumstances, if they had even a little common sense, they wouldn't choose to attack him. Just as Luffy and Kid were about to charge at Trafalgar Law, Sanji and Killer stepped forward to restrain their respective captains. They couldn't let their captains cause trouble. Otherwise, something truly unstoppable might happen. Their captains were clueless, and as crew members, they couldn't be equally clueless. Marco, with a deadpan expression, remarked, "Your Supernova Alliance is really strange. When it's solid, it's very solid. But when it's not solid, it can collapse in an instant. In Marco's opinion, their Supernova Alliance was also a bizarre organization. Ace laughed and replied, "It's nothing. My little brother looks like that." I initially thought Luffy was a Paramecia Devil Fruit user, but I didn't expect him to be a mythical Zoan like you, Marco. I didn't notice anything before. Speaking of Luffy's Devil Fruit ability, it's really strange. That's right, who can say for sure what kind of Devil Fruit it is? Marco waved his hand, indicating that even he didn't have such a deep understanding of Devil Fruits. Capone Beach then changed the subject, saying the Blackbeard pirates couldn't be completely wiped out this time. They'll likely launch a surprise attack on us later. We need to be mindful of that. This time, not completely destroying the Blackbeard pirates means leaving behind a potential threat. Capone Beach's words reflected his own thoughts. If he were the one being ambushed and losing several important crew members, he certainly wouldn't give up. Therefore, Capone Beach felt that the Supernova Alliance needed to prepare early, lest they be ambushed by the Blackbeard pirates before they could react. The losses would be devastating. Whether these people would heed his advice, Capone Beach didn't know, but he knew that he needed to warn them, as a way of indirectly protecting himself. Without the so-called Supernova Alliance, Capone Beach wouldn't bother interfering in other people's affairs. It would be pointless. With Capone Beach's words, those with a bit of common sense began to consider the issue. They did indeed need to prepare for a possible ambush by the Blackbeard pirates. Anyway, the Blackbeard pirates suffered such a huge loss this time. Initially, the Supernova Alliance already had problems. They couldn't completely destroy the Blackbeard pirates. If it weren't for Marco, Ace, and Yamato's help, the Supernova Alliance might have been annihilated by the Blackbeard pirates. One can imagine how terrifying this is. Yurish took the lead in agreeing, saying, "I agree with Capone Beach's words. We definitely need to be prepared for the Blackbeard pirates." Even though the Blackbeard pirates lost important members like Douglas Bullet and two others, they still shouldn't be underestimated. At this moment, the hot-tempered kid looked at Hawkins and questioned, "Hawkins, we haven't even faced the Blackbeard pirates before. And you calculated that our Supernova Alliance has a win rate of over half against them." In Kid's opinion, Hawkins' calculations were completely illogical and unreliable. Facing Kid's questioning, Hawkins responded defiantly, "My calculations weren't wrong. We do indeed have a win rate of over half against the Blackbeard pirates." "How can you say that?" Kid questioned again, clearly unwilling to hear Hawkins' dismissive response. Hawkins replied once more, "As I said, it's only a rough estimate. I can't calculate the actual process, including Marco, Ace, and Yamato." Hawkins said that later, and the others understood clearly. Based on the current situation after the war ended, their chances of winning were indeed higher than the Blackbeard pirates. However, they had external help. Kid didn't pursue the matter further, as it was pointless. After lighting a cigarette, Sanji suggested, "No matter what, given the current situation in the New World, it's not appropriate for us to continue to show our faces, lest we attract the attention of the Beast Pirates. Once we're targeted by the Beast Pirates, I'm sure everyone understands what that means without me having to explain." This time, when the Beast Pirates sent 3 people to disrupt the secret operations of the Navy and the world government, Kaido of the Beast Pirates personally descended upon the Navy headquarters, killing Navy Admiral Kuzan, Admiral Fujitora, and the hero Garp. So, do we have the ability to stand against the Beast Pirates? The answer is clearly no. Sanji spoke very clearly, because his captain, Luffy, was too unreliable. If he made another unwise decision, they would be in trouble again. As Sanji finished speaking, Usopp quietly reminded him, "Sanji, regarding Garp, he's Luffy and Ace's grandfather." Usopp spoke very softly, only Sanji could hear, and Sanji understood Usopp's meaning, but at this moment, some things had to be stated. Also, considering their own safety, even the Navy and the world government couldn't allow a fake Kaido of the Beasts to be involved. What kind of power does the Supernova Alliance possess to challenge Kaido, the Beast Tamer? Isn't that a suicidal act? Anyone with a bit of sense wouldn't do that. As expected, at this moment, both Luffy and Ace had extremely grim expressions. Grandpa, Ace, slightly more mature, reminded Luffy, "Luffy, we can't hurt our hearts. We still have a long and arduous journey ahead. We can't lose our minds." "I know, Ace, I won't act impulsively." Although Straw Hat Luffy was sometimes easily agitated, at this crucial moment, he would regain his composure. Especially when facing an enemy like Kaido of the 100 Beasts, he couldn't act impulsively. He had to think things through carefully. Bonnie asked in front of everyone, "Okay, so what should we do next?" "Deal with Doflamingo." Trafalgar Law directly blurted out this statement in front of everyone, targeting Doflamingo. Many were stunned by this. How could Trafalgar Law still be holding on to the 7 warlords of the sea, Doflamingo? Capone Beach, puffing on his cigar, narrowed his eyes slightly and inquired Trafalgar Law, "Can I interpret this as you having a feud with Doflamingo? Which is why you need to rely on the power of the Supernova Alliance to deal with him. Is what I'm saying correct?" Although Capone Beach was ultimately asking if Trafalgar Law's answer was correct, he already knew the answer. It might be understandable once, but after several times, there must be a problem. Why doesn't Trafalgar Law focus on others, but instead always targets Doflamingo? Without any reason, Capone Beach wouldn't believe anything he said. Trafalgar Law, whose thoughts were seen through, remained completely unfazed, saying, "It's still the same old saying. Dealing with Doflamingo first is more meaningful for our overall strategy." Then let's follow D Law's suggestion. "Dealing with Doflamingo is also a good opportunity for me to test the power I've recently acquired." Straw Hat Luffy readily agreed to Law's suggestion, because Straw Hat Luffy really wanted to find someone to have a good fight with. Having already awakened Nika's abilities after fighting Douglas Bullet, he couldn't experience the joy of a one-on-one battle. Since he'd already fought Douglas Bullet, and now with Law's suggestion, Straw Hat Luffy felt he could go with the flow. Dezana, Zoro, Senji, Usopp, Frankie Brook, and Chopper were all instantly defeated. They were worried about whether Luffy would once again agree to someone else's problematic decision. They really felt like they were going to be tricked. Kid glanced at Straw Hat Luffy and said, "Straw Hat Luffy, someone like you simply doesn't deserve to be the Pirate King." According to Kid, Straw Hat Luffy was simply someone nobody dared to try to please. To have survived and made it to the new world, this guy Straw Hat Luffy was lucky. Abo tapped the table, reminding them, "You guys shouldn't make decisions on this matter. And we haven't even expressed our opinions yet. Let's be clear, we're just allies. You guys aren't our superiors, so don't act like you can order us around." Apple also had strong opinions on this matter. After all, whether it was Straw Hat Luffy, Kid, or even Trafalgar Law, they were all the same. Apple was very self-righteous, thinking that any decision was as good as it came down to. Just by saying so, he wouldn't agree to that, and would simply leave the Supernova Alliance. After all, no one was anyone else's subordinate, and there was no need to obey each other's orders. Appo's words were supported by Capone Beach, Bonnie, Urish, and Hawkins. Urish said actions must be decided by all of us, not by one or two individuals alone. Kid and Trafalgar Law didn't say anything further. It was true. They were now part of the Supernova Alliance. Bonnie, eating her pizza, quietly said, "My suggestion is that we should lie low for now, avoid the storm, and not get caught in the crossfire." "I have no objection," Capone Beach replied. Bonnie and Hawkins also successively expressed their own views and opinions on this matter. At this moment, Marco whispered in Ace's ear, "Ace, we need to go back." "Okay." Ace nodded in response. They did indeed need to return. Then Ace loudly said to Luffy, "Luffy, we have to go back. We'll see each other again when we have time." "Ace, you have to go back, then be careful on your way." Straw Hat Luffy replied with a smile. Luffy wasn't surprised that Ace and the others wanted to return to the Whitebeard Pirates. The other members of the Supernova Alliance also had no objections. It was already very difficult for them to have come to help them in the first place. 10 minutes later, Ace, Marco, and Yamato boarded a small pirate ship and returned. On the way back, Marco anxiously reminded Ace, "After we return, we must also make sure our father is prepared. After all, Kaido of the Beasts will definitely set his sights on our Whitebeard Pirates sooner or later. I can't be too passive. Kaido of the Beasts is so powerful now, honestly, our father can't stop him, and he might even lose his life because of it." Marco said these words, his heart filled with immense torment. There was a time when their father was considered the strongest man in the world. But now, because of Kaido of the Beasts, he had completely overwhelmed everyone. How terrifying was that? Yamato, on the other hand, bowed his head in silence. Had his father become so terrifyingly powerful, Yamato had become completely unfamiliar with Kaido. The changes in such a short time were truly immense. Ace also noticed Yamato's state and didn't interfere. Ace believed Yamato could definitely overcome that inner conflict on her own. He replied to Marco, let's try to persuade our father together. Marco nodded slightly and said, we've seen the news, and our father and the others must have seen it too. We should trust him to make the right decision. Meanwhile, in the Gorosei meeting room in Moriagua, the 5 Gorosei members held another important meeting. Saint J. Garcia Saturn sat on the sofa and solemnly said, this trip was successful. We obtained the Holy Mother's Flame of Annihilation weapon, including Seraphim. It's just a pity Vegapunk escaped. That's enough. Topman Valkyrie Saint replied, at the very least, we have everything in our own hands. Initially, according to the plan, after Seraphim was put into use, we gradually eliminated the 7 warlords of the sea, judging from the current situation. It seems that the 7 warlords of the sea cannot be abolished, because we still need to utilize the power of the 7 warlords of the sea. To what Topman Valkyrie Saint said, the Gorosei all agreed. Even if the 7 warlords of the sea weren't aligned with their world government, they still had some value. Especially in dealing with Kaido of the 100 Beasts, they might even be able to play a role. Shepherd Rue Peter suggested, in that case, the Holy Mother's Flame Annihilation weapon should be activated, and we should destroy Wano country. Hopefully, we can kill Kaido of the 100 Beasts. That way, at least we can rest easy. Not having to constantly worry and be on guard is not a good thing. Marcus Mars Saint also sighed, wondering if there was ever a time when the Gorosei had to fear anyone. The main reason was the appearance of Kaido of the Beasts, which completely disrupted the balance and made the Gorosei aware of the true danger. Then Baron V. Nasujiro Saint, carrying his samurai sword, slowly said, next, we will similarly send out a large number of personnel to monitor the area around Wano, ensuring that Kaido of the Beasts remains in Wano. If Wano isn't destroyed, Kaido of the Beasts will be gone, which would be a complete waste of effort and would only make Kaido even more vigilant. If that happens, it will be much harder for us to continue using the Holy Mother's Flame to deal with Kaido in the future. Although it hadn't happened yet, Ethan Baron V. Nasujiro Saint had already stated the worst possible outcome. At this point, their world government couldn't tolerate even the slightest mistake. They simply couldn't afford it. As for the Revolutionary Army, they were temporarily sidelined by the Gorosei, not given much attention. Shepherd Rue Peter continued, so this plan must be pursued before the World Conference, unless we want to postpone the World Conference. To postpone the World Conference, we'll have to ask permission from Lord M. Topman Valkyrie Saint replied, if Lord M agrees, then we'll announce the postponement of the World Conference. But then again, facing an enemy like Kaido, even the World Conference seems unimportant. Saint J. Garcia Saturn nodded in agreement, saying, that's true. If necessary, the Seraphim monitoring mission can also be deployed. We need to ensure absolute success. After we kill Kaido of the 100 Beasts, we should also carry out a major purge of the entire world, so that the world can once again restore world government that completely dominates from below. If we had known that Kaido of the 100 Beasts would pose such a great threat now, we should have killed him before. Shepherd Repeater recalled the former Kaido of the 100 Beasts. Back then, if the Navy or the world government had been willing to invest their forces, killing Kaido would have been no problem. After all, before Kaido matured, he posed little threat to them. Who could have imagined that Kaido would become so powerful now? Saint J. Garcia Saturn couldn't help but say self-deprecatingly, even with the awakening of the sun god Nika, we didn't bother to pay much attention to him. It's ironic. There was a time when the sun god Nika was the greatest threat in our hearts. On this day, Wano country remained as usual, everyone busy with their own affairs. No one knew the danger that was about to befall them. However, the people of Wano now knew one thing: Lord Kaido could guarantee their safety. After this period of brainwashing, including the display of Kaido's immense power, they realized that only those who were suicidal would choose to resist the beast pirates. Furthermore, Kaido had treated them quite well. Meanwhile, the dark clouds in the sky grew thicker and thicker, a sight that made the strong members of the beast pirates sense that something was amiss. Under normal circumstances, such a situation would be impossible. Its occurrence meant that something extraordinary was about to happen. Redfield, Inflammatory King, Edel, and other officers all rushed out to look up at the sky, while Big Mom Charlotte Linland remained at the 10,000 nations. Shichimoku suspiciously inquired, "What exactly is happening? Why are these strange clouds suddenly gathering in the sky and emitting such a dangerous aura?" Since Shichimoku could sense it, it meant the other officers could feel it as well. This feeling was very unsettling for them. Edel suddenly raised his eyebrows and said, "This thing could be a powerful attack about to descend, even more terrifying than my Thunder God's attack. If this thing falls, Wano will be wiped out completely, of course. This is just my speculation." Edel was able to make this kind of speculation because he himself was a user of the Goro Goro no Mi devil fruit and could sense the hidden power of that cloud layer. Redfield is now feeling a little regretful. He realized how powerful this toy was. If the Beast Pirates could have seized it, their overall fighting strength would have increased by another level. King Inflamed ear-sighed and said, "The possibility of them coming depends on us to stop them, because Lord Kaido left Wano 3 hours ago." "What? Lord Kaido left Wano? How can we stop him?" Queen immediately panicked. Their Beast Pirates were truly famous now, but their strength hadn't increased at all. Unlike Lord Kaido, whose strength had skyrocketed. Vinsmoke Judge, on the other hand, also said helplessly, "We can only do our best." They didn't know that the world government had investigated the Beast Pirates Kaido's whereabouts in Wano, and had seized the opportunity to unleash the Holy Mother's flames. Currently, if the Gorosei knew that Kaido of the Beasts had just left Wano country, they wouldn't activate the Holy Mother flame even if it meant death. Because the Gorosei's goal is to eliminate Kaido of the Beasts. Even if Wano country were wiped out, or the entire Beast Pirates were eliminated, it would be useless. Only by killing Kaido of the Beasts could their world government truly feel at ease. Caesar looked up at the increasingly thick dark clouds in the sky with great frustration, saying, "Lord Kaido, please come back and save me. I don't want to die." Redfield, however, calmly said, "Don't shout, each of you figure out a way to deal with it." Because Redfield was confident that he himself wouldn't be killed by this kind of attack. He needed to consider the others, since the area was too large, and he couldn't possibly protect everyone else. At this moment, Nicole Robin, leading the group of women, arrived and shouted, "Everyone, don't worry. I've informed Lord Kaido, and he'll be returning immediately." As soon as Robin finished speaking, many officers of the Beast Pirates felt their anxieties subside. Because, in their minds, as long as Lord Kaido returned, all problems could be solved. Inurashi and Nikomamushi were both tightly protecting Lady Kozuki Hiyori. Although they were now loyal to Kaido of the Beast Pirates, Lady Kozuki Hiyori was their true master. Less than a minute later, the thick black clouds grew increasingly terrifying, and the sky darkened even further. Red light flickered continuously within the clouds, as if a terrifying power was about to descend. Edel frowned, lightning flashing all over his body, and said, "We can only try once. We'll try to stop as many casualties as we can, at least to reduce the casualties in Wano." Now even Edel was unlikely to show any change in demeanor. He had once been indifferent to the life and death of ordinary people. The Flame King was also engulfed in flames. The others were all fully prepared to unleash their attacks. However, at this moment, Redfield calmly said, "No need, Lord Kaido has returned." As soon as Redfield finished speaking, the group saw Lord Kaido suddenly appear in the air. "That's great, Lord Kaido has returned, now we're safe," Queen immediately exclaimed, indicating that the crisis could be resolved. Jack, Shikamaru, and the others all agreed. Robin, Nami, Black Maria, Junji, Kozuki Hiyori, and the other women also breathed a sigh of relief. Lord Kaido was, in their hearts, like a stabilizing force. Lord Kaido hadn't returned yet, and although they appeared calm on the surface, they couldn't help but feel uneasy inside. After all, facing such a massive situation, they were actually powerless. At most, they could only choose how to save their lives. Kaido, with his arms crossed over his chest, calmly floated in the air, looking at the large expanse of flashing red clouds before him, and slowly said, "Thinking of using this thing against me? Vegapunk, you're indeed a newcomer, capable of creating such a destructive weapon. But do you Gorosei intend to use this to kill me? Haha, you don't know your place." If Kaido, who had once wielded the Beast King level weapon, were to face such destructive power, it would indeed be life-threatening. After all, Kaido could clearly see that such a thing posed a threat to a Beast King. However, for the current Kaido, it was merely a display of power. It was fundamentally insufficient to pose a real threat to him. With his own immense fighting power, coupled with the Fortamo Rinnegan, no one in this world could kill him. Now, the priority was how to protect Wano country. If this thing were to fall, the entire country would be in danger. Kaido's left and right eyes instantly transformed into Fortamo Rinnegan, radiating terrifying ocular power, and he calmly said, "Then, in one go, fire all of these." Thus, Kaido poured all his power into the Tendo Heavenly Path, maximizing its strength. Among the crowd below, Redfield spoke up, "Lord Kaido, if you're going to make a move, it'll be a good opportunity for us to witness your immense power." Super! Shinra Tensei. Kaido spread his arms out, aiming at the dark clouds, and an immense force instantly expanded outwards. Boom! The nation-destroying weapon, immediately enveloped by the dark clouds, was instantly propelled outwards by the super Shinra Tensei. As the repulsive force intensified, sunlight once again shone down on Wano. Even nearby Wano began to shake, demonstrating the terrifying power of the immense impact Kaido unleashed. Even the entire Wano region was affected, shaking violently. Redfield, the Flame King, Edel, and others could feel the immense power of this colossal impact just by watching. The people of Wano were astonished by this sight, their eyes wide with disbelief. At the same time, their fear of Lord Kaido grew even stronger, revering him like a god. Jack exclaimed in admiration, "Lord Kaido's power has become even greater. We can't keep up." Queen, gazing at Lord Kaido's figure, replied, "Jack, you're right. Lord Kaido's power is boundless. There's simply no upper limit." Vinsmoke Judge felt incredibly fortunate to have joined Lord Kaido's ranks. Whether Germa 66 would even exist in the future was uncertain, but now that he had joined Lord Kaido's, his future was undoubtedly glorious. Flame King smirked, whispering, "Lord Kaido is destined to become the king of the world. No one can stop him." In King Inflammation's view, it seemed that Lord Kaido's takeover of the world was only a matter of time. Edel was utterly convinced. To put it bluntly, he had been nothing more than a frog in a well before. Redfield stroked his beard and chuckled, saying, "After the world government's plan failed this time, they should realize they are no match for Lord Kaido. If they can proactively surrender to Lord Kaido, they might still have a chance to survive. If they don't surrender, they'll just be waiting to disappear from this world." Even the world government posed no threat to Lord Kaido. That was Redfield's current belief. It was just a matter of waiting to see when Lord Kaido would officially attack the world government. However, Redfield also knew that once Wano country regained its clear skies, Kaido would slowly slow down. Black Maria hurriedly ran up and hugged Lord Kaido's arm, saying adoringly, "Lord Kaido, you are truly magnificent. That terrifying scene just now was resolved by a single blow from you." "Good, Maria." Kaido patted Maria's shoulder, signaling her to restrain herself a little, not wanting to be like that in public. Black Maria also wisely stepped aside, knowing that she would definitely cling to Lord Kaido for 3 days and 3 nights afterward. Robin and Nami were used to this. Black Maria was always bold and unrestrained, especially in front of Lord Kaido. Enel, recovering from his shock, said, "Lord Kaido, let's attack the holy land of Mariejua. Let's slaughter all those self-proclaimed false gods." Anyway, if Lord Kaido hadn't rushed back just now, he would definitely be in a very difficult situation right now. Therefore, Enel decided to give the world government a harsh lesson. Jack also hurriedly chimed in. "Enel is right, Lord Kaido. We can attack the holy land of Mariejua. With you here, conquering Mariejua will be as easy as pie." Jack thought, and the Beast Pirates also thought, that Lord Kaido was invincible. Look at that terrifying scene just now. It was all destroyed by Lord Kaido alone. So conquering Mariejua would also be as easy as pie, wouldn't it? The Flame King reminded them, the New World still has the underground organization, which hasn't been completely cleaned up yet. Dealing with the world government should be put on hold last. King Flame wanted to be even more cautious. After all, he really wanted Lord Kaido to sit on the throne of the World King, but he was worried that it might lead to unexpected consequences. Therefore, King Flame was somewhat conflicted, and what he said was relatively conservative. Redfield, on the other hand, was very open-minded. Whatever Lord Kaido ordered, they should do. Kaido waved his hand and said, "Everyone, go to the meeting. The Beast Pirates' next course of action will be decided in the meeting." Half a day later, in the Gorosei meeting room of the Holy Land of Muriedra, all 5 of them had gloomy expressions, utterly dejected. A hint of restlessness began to appear. Finally, Topman Valkyrie Saint couldn't hold back any longer and asked, "What should we do now? I didn't expect that even using the Holy Mother's flames would be so easily neutralized by Kaido of the Beast Kingdom." And then Baron V. Nasujiro Saint's eyes were bloodshot, showing just how terrible his mood was. This time, they had completely failed to steal the chicken and lost the rice instead. They also had to be wary of whether Kaido of the Beast Kingdom would betray them and launch a surprise attack on their Holy Land of Muriedra. Shepherd Repeater clenched his fists and said in a low voice, "We completely seriously miscalculated the true strength of Beast Kaido. And there's also the question of why Beast Kaido possesses such immense power, and how he achieved it." One thing that made Shepherd Repeater extremely suspicious was that, from the history of the world government to the present day, no one had ever heard of anyone being able to increase their strength to the level of Beast Kaido. Even someone like Rox had reached the historical limit. Only the Sun God Nika and Lord M from 800 years ago were stronger than Rox. Even the current Beast Kaido, Rox is like a baby in front of him. Conversely, it could also be understood that Lord M was insignificant in front of Beast Kaido. The Gorosei weren't fools. They could make comparisons between Lord M's strength and Beast Kaido's strength. Saint J. Garcia Saturn's eyelids still twitched occasionally as he sighed and said, "If things go wrong, we'll be the losers in the end." It wasn't that Saint J. Garcia Saturn intentionally spoke so bluntly. He was mainly intimidated by Kaido's power. He had reviewed the blueprints for the creation of the Holy Mother Flame many times, noting that it could kill a king-level, nation-destroying super weapon. Yet, such a powerful weapon failed to kill Kaido, let alone affect Wano country. One can imagine how incredibly powerful Kaido must be to be able to suppress the Holy Mother Flame. Just thinking about this made Saint J. Garcia Saturn's hair stand on end. Hearing Saint J. Garcia Saturn's words, the other 4 people's expressions were equally unpleasant. Because what Saint J. Garcia Saturn said wasn't just sensationalism. To be honest, that's why they currently feel such an unusually heavy burden. They don't know how or what method they should use to kill Kaido of the Beasts. Because, as Gorosei members holding the world's top power, they are now beginning to feel fear because of Kaido's immense strength. Marcus Mars Saint took a deep breath and said, "Let's go see Lord M now." Agreed. 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 The other 4 also immediately agreed, because they were truly at a loss, not knowing what to do about Kaido of the Beasts. They had originally thought that using the Holy Mother's flame weapon to deal with Kaido would be enough to completely destroy him. The result truly shocked them. After 5 minutes, 5 Gorosei knelt on one knee before the Void Throne. M, pulling on his cloak, walked to the Void Throne and sat down. The 5 Gorosei respectfully said, "Greetings, Lord M." M, seemingly emotionless, said, "I know the situation. Activate the final plan." "Lord M, that's a matter of life and death. We'll only use it then." Saint J. Garcia Saturn asked anxiously, bowing his head. Suddenly, M's aura exerted pressure on Saint J. Garcia Saturn. Immediately, Saint J. Garcia Saturn hastily said, "Lord M, I know I was wrong." Following Saint J. Garcia Saturn's admission of mistake, M's oppressive aura disappeared. M held the Kaido bounty poster in his hand, his gaze fixed on the distance, and slowly said, "Who exactly are you? Or rather, you are not from this world." Because there was something M firmly believed, judging from the information about Kaido of the Beasts, especially those peculiar eyes, they were fundamentally different from normal. Others might think it was a devil fruit ability, but M wouldn't. How could such an unimaginably multifunctional power be a devil fruit ability? Therefore, M firmly believed that the power in Kaido of the Beast's eyes was not a power from this world, but an external power. Besides an external power, how could a power from this world break the rules to such an unimaginable level of combat power? After all, M had survived for 800 years, and his strength had long since reached its limit in those few hundred years. Even that is far from enough for Kaido of the Beasts. This clearly illustrates the point However, even though Kaido of the Beasts has reached an unimaginable level of power, and still believes there's still a chance of winning. As long as there's a chance, there's room for maneuver. At this moment, Imsuke slowly shifted to the Gorosei, giving orders. Now, use all available forces to kill Trafalgar Law. Don't let him fall into Kaido's hands. Once Kaido gains eternal life, you understand the consequences. As long as Kaido has a limited lifespan, even a trick can kill him. Yes, Lord Im. The Gorosei replied respectfully in unison. Lord Im's personal order must be carried out, even if it means death. Regarding the news of the secret government's use of the Holy Mother Flame to destroy nations, the high-ranking officials within the Navy were somewhat aware of it. For this reason, the newly appointed Admiral Sakazuki even deliberately organized a meeting. In the past 2 years, the Navy's high-ranking officials have been constantly replacing each other, with only Kizaru Borsalino remaining firmly in his position as Admiral. Sakazuki, however, seized the opportunity and was promoted to Admiral. Now, only 4 people are present: Admiral Sakazuki and the 3 admirals Kizaru, Momousagi, and Tokikake. Their navy system may seem relatively stable, but in reality, their overall combat power has significantly decreased compared to before. Sakazuki sat in the main seat, his calm face smoking a cigar, continuously exhaling smoke, making it clear at a glance that his mood was extremely bad at this moment. Kizaru, still maintaining his humble demeanor, jokingly said, "Comrade Tokikake and Comrade Momousagi, congratulations on your promotion." "Admiral Kizaru, please don't tease me." "I'm very clear about my own strength," Momousagi replied modestly. She knew exactly how she had risen to the admiral position. It was practically unavoidable, a direct promotion to admiral at Marine headquarters. Furthermore, Momousagi knew she was still a bit short of reaching the true admiral level. At most, she was only very close to admiral level combat power. In the past, she wouldn't have been able to successfully become an admiral. Becoming a reserve admiral would have been good enough. Now, hearing Admiral Kizaru's teasing, she seemed a little taken aback. But unlike Momousagi, Tokikake was much more enthusiastic. No matter what, he was about to become an admiral, a dream he'd always dreamed of, and now it was finally come true. As for the greater dangers, Tokikake didn't want to think about that for now. He'd focus on the glory first. Becoming an admiral meant widespread fame, but the Navy wasn't as famous as it once was. It was completely overshadowed by Kaido of the Beast Kingdom, causing its prestige to plummet. Sakazuki gestured, saying, "Okay, let's get down to business. I'm sure everyone's heard the rumors. The Gorosei used Vegapunk to create the Holy Mother Flame, a weapon of mass destruction, but it was still ineffective." Sakazuki stopped speaking at this point, feeling like he couldn't continue. Why was life so difficult for him in this era? To be honest, Sakazuki didn't have the confidence to lead the Navy against the Beast King Kaido. Kaido's exaggerated strength was built on his achievements. Kizaru said with a cowardly expression, "How terrifying." With such a terrifying Beast King Kaido, we need to consider how to protect our lives. As long as we preserve the Green Mountains, we won't have to worry about firewood. Once we die, it's like everything is gone. Let the world government worrying about it. They're probably more anxious than we are right now. This was the first time Kizaru had spoken so bluntly. Normally, Kizaru wouldn't say such things. It was clearly a self-preservation tactic. Now, saying these words is also to slightly influence those around him, so that when the time comes to avoid responsibility, he can feel a little less burdened. At the very least, Kizaru doesn't dare to say for sure who between the world government and Kaido of the 100 Beasts will ultimately emerge victorious. Tokikake said admiringly, "Kizaru-senpai, you're truly something. Your perspective is truly unique." After all, according to Tokikake, Kizaru daring to say these words shows that he's very unusual. Sakazuki glanced at Kizaru. He knew that Kizaru had that kind of personality, but at this time, he couldn't hold Kizaru accountable. After all, they were well aware of Kaido of the 100 Beasts' power. Facing Kaido was basically a death sentence, with no chance of winning whatsoever. Momousagi was somewhat reluctant to listen to these stories, so she changed the subject and inquired, "Marshal Sakazuki, what should we do next?" Sakazuki extinguished his cigarette, lit another cigar, and said, "Wait for the right opportunity." Kaido, this huge cancerous tumor of the beasts, we definitely need to eliminate him, but we can't act blindly. In fact, Sakazuki really wanted to directly mobilize the entire marine force to destroy Kaido in one fell swoop, but knowing that he couldn't eliminate Kaido completely, he chose to wait for the right opportunity. For a radical person like Sakazuki, being forced to make this choice was also because Kaido's strength was too great. After the Whitebeard pirates arrived, Ace, Marco, and Yamato immediately went to find their father. However, Yamato didn't get involved further, as she wasn't a member of the Whitebeard pirates, and this was definitely inappropriate, although the Whitebeard pirates didn't object. But Yamato knew he couldn't do that, and Ace didn't force Yamato later. As long as Yamato was happy, anything was fine. Whitebeard and all the other captains of his crew gathered together to discuss important matters concerning the future of the Whitebeard pirates. After all, the Whitebeard pirates were facing a life-or-death situation and had to be cautious. Whitebeard himself was well aware of this. Sitting in the main seat, Whitebeard smiled and said, "It's flattering. My children, I know what you're worried about. Your father won't let you take risks." In fact, Whitebeard had already considered this. If the Whitebeard pirates continued sailing in the New World, they would inevitably encounter the Beast Pirates. Given Whitebeard's current physical condition, he was already powerless to worrying about anything else, let alone protect his children. Therefore, Whitebeard felt fortunate that his children were able to survive. Before his son could even speak, Whitebeard directly said again, "The Whitebeard pirates, I plan to disband them. Then you each find a place to live in seclusion. As for Kaido of the Beasts, I will personally go and talk to him." "Father, why?" "Seclusion. We'll live together. If you go to Kaido, he definitely won't let you off the hook." Ace immediately replied worriedly. Ace had no trust in Kaido of the Beasts from the bottom of his heart because that person was simply too dangerous. Marco, equally worried, said, "Father, if we all go into hiding together, leaving the New World, Kaido of the Beasts shouldn't have any reason to continue bothering us." In truth, Marco himself wasn't entirely sure. After all, Kaido of the Beasts was now the strongest man in the world, so strong that even the world government was powerless against him. If they hid, it wasn't impossible that Kaido would hunt them down later. The other squadron captains also showed worried expressions. Whitebeard waved his hand and said bluntly, "Enough talking. Are you even going to disobey the captain's orders?" Whitebeard spoke very seriously, causing the squadron captains to lower their heads. Whitebeard continued, "I've lived long enough. There's no need to cling to my last few years. I'll use my old life to the fullest. Your safety is more important than anything else. There's still a little bit left. Don't even think about going to seek revenge on Kaido. Understood?" "Understood, father." The captains of the squads all responded in unison. Their father had made up his mind, and they understood. Therefore, they ultimately chose to respect their father's decision, not wanting to bring shame to him even in the end. Seeing this, Whitebeard also showed a joyful smile. At least his sons could survive. Even if only more than half survived, Whitebeard was still happy. Thus, Whitebeard made his decision, and the entire Whitebeard pirates quickly took action. A day later, Whitebeard went to Wano Country alone. Seeing Wano Country, Whitebeard couldn't help but show a nostalgic look in his eyes, reminding him of some events that had happened many years ago. At this moment, a pirate from the Beast Pirates rushed over. Upon seeing who had arrived, he nervously exclaimed, "Are you Whitebeard? What are you doing in Wano? Don't you know this is Lord Kaido's territory?" This pirate from the Beast Pirates was incredibly nervous at this moment. He was just a nobody, even with the Beast Pirates' current overwhelming power. Whitebeard wasn't someone he could easily mess with, unless it was a high-ranking member of the Beast Pirates. Whitebeard chuckled and said, "Just say, I'm here. Go announce it. Just say I, Whitebeard, have arrived." "All right," the Beast Pirates member replied, swallowing hard. As long as Whitebeard didn't attack him, that was good enough. At least he wouldn't lose his life. In Wano Flower capital, Robin approached Lord Kaido and respectfully reported, "Lord Kaido, Whitebeard has arrived in Wano, alone, and says he wishes to see you." Whitebeard. Kaido was also surprised. What was Whitebeard doing here alone? Since he was here, he decided to meet him. So he said, have Redfield bring Whitebeard here. All right, Robin replied, and immediately began to carry out the task. On the shores of Wano, Whitebeard waited for about 10 minutes before Redfield arrived and landed in front of him. Looking at Whitebeard's aged appearance, Redfield chuckled and said, haha Whitebeard, you were once so energetic, but now you're gradually growing old. Time truly spares no one. That's right. We in this generation are getting old, but you, Redfield, can still maintain your youthful appearance. Whitebeard also expressed his admiration. Most people from his era have died, and those who haven't died are gradually growing old. Conversely, Redfield was admirable. Despite his age, he still maintained the appearance of a young man. Of course, Whitebeard only felt a slight admiration before returning to normal. Whitebeard didn't value these external things. From beginning to end, Whitebeard's focus was always on his family. Suddenly, Redfield revealed his fighting spirit, saying, Whitebeard, let me see how much fighting power you have left after you get old. Whoosh! Whitebeard laughed heartily in response. Then, come on. Read the aloof Redfield, don't think that just because I'm old, my fighting power is no match for yours. Whitebeard also possessed extraordinary fighting spirit. For Redfield, easily having a good fight before his death was also quite good for Whitebeard. Without a word, Redfield immediately launched an attack, and Whitebeard likewise swung his Murakamojiri to counterattack. In the distance, the Flame King and Enel were watching. Enel grumbled, this kind of thing should be me doing. I was also thinking of sparring with Whitebeard to see how strong that old man really is. That's Lord Kaido himself who designated Redfield to go and greet him. You're ruining Lord Kaido's plans, the Flame King sternly warned. Indeed, Enel instantly fell silent. Since Lord Kaido had given the order, Enel wouldn't dare disrupt it, unless he was tired of living. So the Flame King and Enel didn't continue the conversation, choosing instead to watch intently. They could also benefit greatly from the battle between Whitebeard and Redfield. Redfield and Whitebeard fought for over 2 hours before pausing. After all, it wasn't a life-or-death struggle. They were simply assessing each other's strength. Redfield smirked mockingly, saying, Whitebeard, you're really getting old. You don't have the power you used to have. If you were at your peak, I wouldn't say anything. But now, if you keep fighting, I'll be the winner. Whoosh! Whitebeard completely ignored Redfield's sarcasm, laughing as he said, don't think that just because you've acquired some kind of youth-restoring devil fruit, you can show off in front of me. I'm too lazy to argue with you. Come with me to see Lord Kaido. Redfield didn't want to dwell on this topic any longer, mainly because he couldn't waste too much time. Just now, due to the battle, we were delayed for over 2 hours. If we were to delay any longer, it would be his fault. Whitebeard raised his eyebrows and said, back then, Rox was a trainee crew member on the ship, and now he's a top-tier figure, far surpassing us old geezers. Although Kaido of the Beasts wasn't young either, he was a generation younger than Whitebeard, but Whitebeard was simply very impressed. He could feel his life energy slowly draining away, but Kaido of the Beasts had reached a height no one else could reach. This made Whitebeard feel that everything was so illusory and unreal. But the truth was before him, and Whitebeard had to admit that both the present and future eras belonged to Kaido of the Beasts. More than 10 minutes later, Redfield brought Whitebeard to Wano Flower Capital. On the way, Whitebeard felt very suspicious. Wano country didn't seem to have the oppressive living conditions of its people. On the contrary, life was quite peaceful. In other words, Kaido of the Beasts treated the people in his territory quite well. In a luxurious ballroom, Kaido sat in the main seat, watching a group of women dance. At this moment, Robin whispered in Lord Kaido's ear, Lord Kaido, Redfield and Whitebeard are arriving soon. Kaido replied, then said, you all withdraw. Yes, Lord Kaido. The dancers all withdrew. After Redfield escorted Whitebeard, he left. Whitebeard calmly walked in, his eyes directly fixed on Kaido, who was seated in the main seat, and said with a smile, Whoosh Kaido, last time we parted ways after the Summit War. I can't believe we're meeting again so soon. Sit down, Whitebeard. Kaido gestured for Whitebeard to sit. Whitebeard didn't stand on ceremony and immediately sat down to drink. Instantly, only Kaido and Whitebeard remained in the ballroom. Whitebeard couldn't help but reminisce, saying, time flies so fast. If only Rox had you in his world back then, he would have succeeded. But rocks was too radical back then, and you, Kaido, are far more powerful than rocks. Rock's strength was indeed very strong, but he was only slightly stronger than him and Roger. Battles usually take a long time to determine a winner, but Kaido of the 100 Beasts was different. He was an existence beyond this world. Rocks. Failure is failure, no matter the reason. Kaido didn't care about this either. He considered Rock's defeat inevitable. 38 years ago, he certainly possessed the most powerful fighting force on the vast ocean. But this kind of power wasn't about crushing everyone, but rather a slight or even tiny increase. This was also the reason Rocks was defeated by Roger and Garp working together. Sufficient strength, disregard for everything that's true invincibility. Ultimately, they were both Emperor level. It was just a matter of strength. Whitebeard looked at Kaido and went straight to the point, saying, Kaido, you must know my purpose in coming to Wano. Spare my children. I have ordered the Whitebeard pirates to disband, and my life is at your disposal. Since he's already come this far, there's no point in exchanging empty pleasantries. It's better to directly state the reason. Kaido smirked coldly and said, Haha, Whitebeard, you really care about your children. Of course, this is your biggest weakness. There's no second one. So, what's your intention? Whitebeard retorted. Kaido didn't beat around the bush and directly replied, Fine, as long as your children behave themselves, I can pretend I didn't see anything. Don't jump out and do anything stupid. Then, when that time comes, I won't hold back. Do you understand what I mean, Whitebeard? Yes, thank you. Whitebeard inwardly breathed a sigh of relief. At least Kaido had responded, confirming that as long as his sons didn't cause trouble for Kaido, they were safe. Immediately, Whitebeard laughed heartily and said, It's fluttering before leaving. I can stop drinking, so I have no regrets. Whitebeard chuckled and began to sip his sake from the gourd. Kaido casually said, Whitebeard, I didn't say I wanted to kill you. Suddenly, before Whitebeard could finish drinking, he was almost choked by a remark. Whitebeard looked at Kaido in disbelief and asked, Kaido, what do you mean by not taking my head? Taking your head wouldn't do any good. Leave it in Wano. Of course, you can understand it as holding it hostage. After all, if you die, who can guarantee that your sons won't jump out and cause trouble? Kaido retorted with a half-smile. This time, Whitebeard felt a headache coming on. He had originally come to kill him, but now he was just going to kill him instead. Whitebeard, visibly annoyed, took a large gulp of sake and said, Kaido, are you trying to make me a complete hostage? Isn't that what you think, Whitebeard? Kaido also took a gulp of sake and retorted with a laugh. Whitebeard fell into thought. To be honest, he only cared about the safety of his children. If he died, whether his children would survive was uncertain, but as long as he was alive, no matter what, he could at least take care of them simply by being a hostage in the Beast Pirates. Whitebeard directly said, Kaido, I can be your hostage, but there's one important thing I need to tell you beforehand. I can't possibly do any work for you. And you must prepare plenty of food and drink for me. Haha, Kaido laughed in response, saying, No problem. You can do whatever you want here in Wano. Kaido knew that the reason Whitebeard could speak so amicably was entirely due to Kaido's own immense strength. If it weren't for Whitebeard's personality, they would have already started fighting. Then, some of the Beast Pirates officers sat together. Vinsmoke Judge said incredulously, Whitebeard, has he joined our Beast Pirates? It's no wonder Vinsmoke Judge was surprised. In his understanding, Lord Kaido wanted to eliminate Whitebeard, but now Whitebeard is in Wano. This isn't a simple question. Has Whitebeard joined our Beast Pirates? Queen chimed in. That's strange. If that Whitebeard guy were to join our Beast Pirates, it would definitely increase our fighting power. After all, in Queen's opinion, since Redfield, Big Mom Charlotte Linlin, and now Whitebeard joining, his status has been steadily declining. He used to be the third most important figure in the Beast Pirates, but what has he become now? Queen was naturally feeling frustrated. In contrast, King Flame was much calmer. After all, in King Flame's heart, as long as Lord Kaido could ascend to the throne of the World King, he wouldn't care about anything else. Enel scratched his ear and said, My opportunities to showcase my talents are becoming increasingly scarce. Redfield leisurely sipped his red wine, calmly saying, Seize this last chance to wage a great war against the world government, otherwise you'll have even fewer opportunities later. That's true. After descending from Skypiea, Enel had a thorough understanding of the situation on this high seas. After thinking about it, he also felt Redfield's words made sense. Jack the Drow grumbled, "Anyway, I've become a minor character." He remembered that he was once one of the top fighters of the Beast Pirates, but now he's become a mere insignificant figure. Now, there are many people in the Beast Pirates who are more powerful than him. A few days later, after the disbandment of the Whitebeard Pirates, most of the members gathered at their father's hometown, Sphinx Island. The captain of the 10th Division, Curiel, anxiously inquired, "Marco, how is father doing now?" The other squad leaders, who oversee the pirate crews, are also very concerned about their father's situation. It's safe to say that these past few days have felt like a year. Marco took out his father's life card and said, "Look, Dad's life card is still perfectly intact. That means Dad isn't in danger right now." That's great. As long as Dad isn't in danger, that's all that matters. Ace was very happy. As long as his father was all right, the heavy heart he had been carrying could finally be relieved. Diamond Jozu chimed in, "I told you. How could Dad be in any danger? He's our father." "That's right, he's our father," Kingbu, the captain of the 11th Division, added. For most of the listeners, hearing that his father wasn't in any good news was unsettling, but Marco, on the contrary, frowned. After all, Marco felt there was something strange about this situation, and he himself couldn't quite pinpoint the details. However, regardless of the circumstances, there was definitely something he didn't know about, and that was what worried him. Flower Sword Vista noticed Marco's worrying and asked, "Marco, what are you worried about? Tell us, and we can discuss and resolve it together." Everyone looked at Marco, waiting for his response. Marco voiced his anxieties, saying, "Don't you find it strange? It's good that my father is all right, so why didn't Kaido of the 100 Beasts take his life? Also, the Life Force card only points towards Wano country. So what exactly happened to the Godfather in Wano is unknown, therefore." Marco said this, and everyone understood what he meant. He was worried about what their father's situation was like in Wano. 7th Division Captain Rakuyo sighed and said, "It's a pity we can't proactively contact our father. We can only passively wait for him to contact us." That's right. 14th Division Captain Speedjiro also sighed in response. After all, their father had gone to Wano with the determination to fight to the death. Suddenly, the phone rang, beep beep beep, everyone's hearts instantly tensed. Is that Dad calling? Quickly, check. Marco took out his phone and checked it. It was indeed his father calling. This time, everyone smiled. At least their father could make this call, which meant his situation wasn't too bad, and they could feel a little more at ease. Marco listened, and then Whitebeard's laughter came through. Whoosh! Whitebeard laughed heartily. "My children, I've made a living in Wano. You don't need to worry. Just continue living in seclusion. We'll talk after the real war is over." "Father, are you all right? Aren't you going back to Sphinx Island?" Marco asked through the phone. The other squad leaders were also anxious for their father's next answer. Ace, in particular, was very reluctant to see their father out in such danger. Whitebeard chuckled happily, saying, "It's flattering, my silly sons. I just want you all to be well. You don't need to worry about your father's side. Remember, live well, understood? Also, let's end the phone call here. Anyway, I'm in Wano country. Kaido won't make things difficult for me." Whitebeard didn't intend to talk for too long, because Whitebeard knew that if the phone call lasted too long, his sons would get impatient and might even run to Wano country. So, to avoid trouble, Whitebeard didn't intend to talk for too long. After Whitebeard proactively hung up the phone, the captains of the Sphinx Island squadrons were a little surprised. They hadn't even had a chance to ask their father why he was staying in Wano country. But before they could ask, their father had already hung up the phone. This caught them off guard for a moment. Marco bowed and said, "Okay, we don't need to worry too much. Since father is all right, we can rest assured. Father's actions certainly have their own reasons. We shouldn't worry too much. Living peacefully is the best way to repay him." Marco is absolutely right. Diamond Jozo nodded in agreement. After all, for them, as long as their father was all right, that was more important than anything else. Izo, the captain of the 16th Division, said, although father didn't tell us the reason, his decision to stay in Wano means he must have reached some kind of agreement with Kaido. Buffalo Admis, the captain of the 13th Division, said, if all else fails, we'll go to Wano to visit father. Who cares about Kaido? We're the Whitebeard pirates. No, that's too risky. Extremely unwise. Marco directly rejected Admis's proposal in front of everyone. Mainly, Admis's proposal was too risky. No matter what, Wano country is Kaido's territory. What would the Whitebeard pirates as a whole want to do by going to Wano country? It could easily spark a war, and that's not what his father wants. Marco understood that. Marco continued, it's best if we follow our father's instructions. That way, we can avoid a lot of unnecessary trouble. Even though Marco himself was curious, he still had to distinguish between the priorities to avoid further complications. Not far away, Yamato sat alone, admiring the scenery. No one knew what he was thinking. At that moment, Ace came over and sat beside Yamato. Ace, curious, asked Yamato, what are you thinking about? Sitting here all alone. Ace, you probably don't feel anything, but I can clearly sense that Kaido is different from before, Yamato replied slowly, lost in thought. If Kaido's appearance hadn't changed, I doubt he was my father. He feels like a completely different person. Don't overthink it, Yamato. Everyone changes. Just focus on how much you change. Remember, you're happy now, Ace said, patting Yamato's shoulder. Ace was surprised that Yamato could live so happily, instead of wasting her energy on these things. Ace had experienced all of this before. He let go today because he met his father. Therefore, Ace also hoped that he could become the one Yamato encountered, and in this state, Yamato should be able to escape. Yamato smiled and said, no matter what, I have to thank you, Ace. It's you who allowed me to see this vast sky. Ace, Yamato, what are you two doing? The voice of Haruta, the captain of the 12th Division, came from afar. Coming. Ace and Yamato both stood up and went back. Afterwards, the Whitebeard pirates directly held a celebratory banquet on Sphinx Island to commemorate their father's well-being. They confirmed that their father was all right, so of course they had to celebrate properly. For the past few days, they had been sleeping in constant worrying, afraid of hearing bad news. Ace took the lead, shouting loudly, let's celebrate our father's good fortune. That's right. Marco also responded with a laugh. Yamato, on the other hand, was also drawn into this atmosphere. He shouldn't overthink things, as Ace had told him. He should just live well. As for how her father, Kaido, would torment her, that was Kaido's own business. After all, the only relationship between them was that of father and daughter. Kaido wouldn't care about her life, but Yamato still felt grateful to him. At least during the Summit War, Kaido had led the entire group to attack the Marine headquarters. That event, even now, when Yamato recalls it, remains incredibly moving, and it's the very reason why Yamato's heart is so conflicted about it. Regarding the news of Whitebeard's whereabouts in Wano, it has also spread. Especially the Navy and the world government, their nerves are currently the most sensitive. Therefore, Sakazuki specifically organized another meeting on this matter, because even a small matter concerning the beast pirates would trigger Sakazuki's nerves. Kizaru, looking humble, went to Sakazuki's office and inquired, Sakazuki, what exactly is so urgent that you wanted me to come here directly? The situation is serious, Sakazuki said directly. According to reliable information, Whitebeard is in Wano, and it is speculated that he may have joined the beast pirates. As for his own crew, Whitebeard's current whereabouts are still unknown. That's terrifying. If that's the case, we have absolutely no chance of winning. Kizaru replied, his expression a mixture of humility and shock. Kizaru actually wanted to say that even without Whitebeard joining the beast pirates, they were no match for Kaido. So it was more important to think about how to save their own lives. Kizaru was shocked, but not overly so. After all, they were no match for Kaido. So why should they care how much more power he would gain? Kizaru waved his hand dismissively and suggested, Sakazuki, we don't need to worry about this. The higher-ups will naturally take care of it. Anyway, even if we did worry, it wouldn't make any difference. If even the world government can't handle it, then we certainly don't need to. Borsellino's words, Sakazuki naturally understood his meaning, but he felt particularly frustrated. This wasn't what Sakazuki wanted. Sakazuki was absolutely righteous, even if it meant sacrificing his own life. He was also too lazy to waste words, directly giving orders. Borsellino put all the Seraphim into standby mode. After all, war could break out at any moment. I understand, Kizaru replied, maintaining his submissive demeanor. But even Sakazuki didn't know what he was really thinking. He simply obeyed Sakazuki's orders. However, when it came to matters of life and death, Kizaru wouldn't hesitate. Escaping was paramount. After Kizaru left the office, Sakazuki leaned back in his chair, his expression grave. Momousagi and Tokikake had both been sent out earlier. The World Conference concerning Kaido of the 100 Beasts had been postponed because the Gorosei and the nations of the world didn't dare take this high risk. What if they all focused on the holy land of Muriagewa and Kaido of the Beasts attacked Muriagewa? What would happen then? Would all those kings be wiped out? The entire situation was currently passive, basically caused by Kaido of the Beasts. However, there was one thing that puzzled Sakazuki. Why did the Gorosei forcibly order their navy to kill Trafalgar Law at any cost? According to Sakazuki, Trafalgar Law was just a minor figure, completely incomparable to Kaido of the Beasts. So why would the Gorosei make such a big move? Sakazuki simply couldn't understand it. At the same time, 5 warships sailed across the New World, led by the newly appointed admirals Momousagi and Tokikake. Tokikake, with a disgusted expression, grumbled, "Marshal Sakazuki is really something. He wants us to chase and kill that Trafalgar Law. It's simply a waste of talent. And he even deployed so many people." Tokikake didn't understand Marshal Sakazuki's decision. In fact, the generals who were deployed this time were basically grumbling inwardly because they didn't understand the reason behind the superior's order. Momousagi also grumbled, "It's quite infuriating, but no matter what, this is a mission from above, and we just have to complete it." Momousagi, you're right, the superiors must have a door stuck in their heads. Tokikake, in an attempt to curry favor with Momousagi, directly criticized the so-called superior's words. Behind his back, Hina reminded him, "Admiral Tokikake, you need to be mindful of the context of your words. Otherwise, you'll cause a lot of unnecessary trouble, especially now that the Gorosei are under immense pressure." Hina felt that Admiral Tokikake had become a bit too carefree, and she felt it was necessary to remind him. This time, Tokikake was frustrated. He had initially hoped to win Momosagi's favor, but Hina's interference had backfired, resulting in him shooting himself in the foot. Momosagi's gaze swept towards Tokikake, saying, "Hina was right, Tokikake, you really need to be careful. Our becoming admirals is pure luck." Regardless, whether the Gorosei's orders are right or wrong is not something we can judge. In truth, when Momousagi herself said those words, she felt a little guilty. This situation wasn't what she wanted. Smoking Smoker said, "Is there a possibility that Trafalgar Law has some kind of problem or possesses some secret which caused the Gorosei to make such a big fuss? Normally, the most important thing should be Kaido of the Beasts, but he's not, so my speculation is highly plausible." "I agree with Vice Admiral Smoker." Tushiji quickly raised her hand to express her agreement. Momousagi replied, "We'll know what secret he's hiding once we capture Trafalgar Law." The Supernova Alliance. Ha ha. Interesting? Tokikake clenched his fist. He was now very interested in the so-called Supernova Alliance. Coincidentally, the former general later felt a little restless, and those little brats had decent strength. Enough to have some fun with. The Supernova Alliance on this side had begun to slowly grow noisy. After all, with so many captains grouped together, opinions would gradually split, and that was the problem. Kid questioned Trafalgar Law. "Trafalgar Law, tell me what exactly happened? Why are they specifically targeting you?" There was no way around it. This matter had to be clarified, otherwise they would be unnecessarily taking the blame for Trafalgar Law's actions against the Navy. After all, Kid wasn't that stupid, and neither were the other supernovas. Only Straw Hat Luffy found it amusing. Facing Kid's pressing questions, Trafalgar Law was also completely bewildered. He didn't know why the Navy was specifically targeting him, and even sending out 2 newly appointed admirals at once. "I don't know either." Even Knight Raffle Jala could only respond in this way. while simultaneously wondering how he should respond next, unable to simply sit and wait for death. Capon Beach, puffing on his cigar, said coldly, Trafalgar Law, your answer doesn't satisfy us. Furthermore, we cannot bear this risk with you. Aren't we allies? We should face difficulties together, shouldn't we? Straw Hat Luffy retorted with a look of utter disbelief. Luffy's words instantly drew hostile stares. The Straw Hat crew quickly pulled their captain back. Luffy was truly a master at attracting hatred, always causing trouble for no reason. Bonnie pointed at Straw Hat Luffy and said, Straw Hat Luffy, if you want to go face the Marines with Trafalgar Law, then go, but don't drag us along. Yorish opened his eyes, then closed them, and said, anyway, I intend to withdraw. As for the alliance matters, we'll talk about them later. Hawkins fiddled with Carol's cards, slowly saying, I agree with Yorish's decision. Trafalgar Law, you brought this trouble upon yourself, so you should handle it yourself. As for who wants to help Trafalgar Law, that's their personal matter. Don't drag me into it. Hawkins made it clear that Trafalgar Law had brought this trouble upon himself, so he should solve it himself. If someone wanted to help, he wouldn't stop them. It was a personal matter. Kid smirked and said, haha, Trafalgar Law, you heard that. Such trouble for the Navy. You should handle it yourself. After saying that, Kid stood up and shouted, Killer, let's go. Killer followed Kid, and soon after, Capone Beach also followed by Yurish, Hawkins, and Bonnie. The Straw Hat Pirates were still there, and Trafalgar Law's expression was extremely grim. He still hadn't figured out why the Navy was making such a fuss chasing him. Trafalgar Law hadn't done anything that would cause the Navy or the world government significant losses. Yet they were still being targeted, and this kind of pursuit was going to cost them dearly. Meanwhile, on the Straw Hat Pirates side, their captain Luffy hadn't given the order, so they couldn't just leave like that. Dezana looked at Trafalgar Law and asked, Trafalgar Law, just tell me directly. There's no one else here. Why is the Navy making such a fuss chasing you? The Navy chasing you certainly has a reason, and I believe you understand that. Zoro, Senji, Usopp, Frankie Brooke, and Chopper all looked towards Trafalgar Law. Even Trafalgar Law's crew members, including Beepo, looked at their captain. They were all very confused. Their captain hadn't done anything significant. So why was the Navy targeting him like this? They'd even sent in newly appointed admirals specifically to hunt him down. Trafalgar Law's face grew increasingly grim as he listened, and he angrily shouted, damn it, if I knew, I wouldn't be so angry. What the hell does the Navy mean by this? I believe in the law, Straw Hat Luffy replied, flashing his pearly white teeth in a smile. Trafalgar Law's expression instantly turned serious as he questioned, Straw Hat Luffy, what do you mean? You need to understand what your decision represents. Your crew members don't agree with your decision. The truth was just as Trafalgar Law said. Everyone in the Straw Hat Pirates glared at Straw Hat Luffy with murderous eyes. Frankie slapped the back of his head, not knowing what to do. Who said Captain Luffy always made such decisions? Sanji lit a cigarette and said, there's no other way. Since Captain Luffy has to help Trafalgar Law, we can only go along with it. It seems like that's really the only option, Zoro replied, waving his hand. Brooke swayed slightly, smiling as he said, then we must prepare for battle. The Marines are about to arrive. Dezana shook her head in disappointment, saying, if things go wrong, it might be our last stop. So let's not be too optimistic. After all, according to Dezana, directly confronting the Marines wasn't a good thing. The risks involved were very high. Trafalgar Law looked solemnly at Straw Hat Luffy and said, thank you, Straw Hat host. I owe you a favor. This time, Trafalgar Law sincerely expressed his gratitude to Straw Hat Luffy. If Straw Hat Luffy hadn't stayed to help him, facing the Marines alone, he would have felt powerless. Less than 10 minutes later, after the Marine fleet arrived, Tokikake grabbed a megaphone and shouted, Trafalgar Law, I know you're on the island. Surrender now, and we Marines can consider sparing your subordinates. If you dare resist, you know the consequences. Momoshagi reminded him, those who don't want to become supernovas have all left, but the Straw Hat Pirates haven't left. We don't know if they'll fight us. After all, he's Vice Admiral Garp's nephew. Speaking of Vice Admiral Garp, the Marines present couldn't help but feel sad. He was their symbol of heroism, and he was also killed by Kaido of the Beast Kingdom. Straw Hat Luffy. Smoker, upon hearing Luffy's name called out, couldn't help but feel indignant. After all, Smoker found this guy Luffy very annoying. Tokikake, with a face full of infatuation, gazed at Momoshagi and asked Momoshagi, "What do you think? If you say we should attack Luffy, I'll attack him. If you say we shouldn't, I won't attack. No need, we should still ask for permission from above." Momoshagi also disliked Tokikake's words, but as a colleague, she couldn't be too harsh on the surface. Conversely, Hina and Smoker and the others behind her consciously chose to keep quiet about this kind of thing. They didn't want to offend Admiral Tokikake. After all, this kind of thing was completely pointless. On the island, Trafalgar Law heard the Marines' order and said, "Prepare for battle." "Yes, Captain." Bebo and the others shouted in response. Straw Hat Luffy chimed in, "Let's all go together and confront the Marines." "Luffy, something's happened. You have to take responsibility." Dezana directly pointed her finger at Luffy's straw hat, reminding him. Their captain, Luffy, was a constant source of worrying. On the shore, the Straw Hat Pirates and the Heart Pirates emerged together. Momoshagi, having just received instructions from the Gorosei, was also frowning. Now, seeing Luffy come along, she instantly felt helpless. If Luffy had run away, Momoshagi might have spared him out of respect for the deceased Vice Admiral Garp. But now Luffy had run straight into the line of fire, so they couldn't be blamed. The CPOs hidden on the ship emerged, their eyes directly locking onto Luffy. The leader, Rob Lucci, said the two admirals go capture Trafalgar Law. As for Luffy, leave him to us. All right then, I'll leave it to you. Momoshagi didn't want to confront Straw Hat Luffy. The CPO could handle it, saving him from feeling guilty. It's just Garp's fault for not being smart enough to dare run into the line of fire for something like this. On the shore, Trafalgar Law watched the CPOs emerge, his veins bulging as he said, "The Navy and the world government really have their eyes on me." Not only did they send to admirals, but they also added CPOs. Trafalgar Law had previously suspected this, but now he was more than 50% certain that the reason he was being targeted was likely due to his Nomi ability. No, the Navy and the world government had no reason to do so. To deal with him, such a massive conflict seems to indicate that the Nomi hides even greater secrets. Secrets that even Trafalgar Law himself doesn't know. The next moment, the Navy took the lead in the attack. Rob Lucci directly targeted Straw Hat Luffy, Kaku targeted Zoro, while the other CPOs, Hina, Smoker, and other Navy personnel dealt with the Straw Hat Pirates and Heart Pirates members. Only Trafalgar Law received special attention, being targeted by two admirals. Trafalgar Law blocked Momosagi's attack while also guarding against Tokikake's sneak attack. Trafalgar Law angrily questioned, "Tell me, why are you targeting me? What is the reason?" Currently, Trafalgar Law could only get the answer from the Navy. Momosagi, on the other hand, straightforwardly replied, "I don't know about that either. That was an order from the Gorosei. Our mission was simply to capture you and bring you back." Gorosei. Then I'm truly glorious. Trafalgar Law was also troubled within his troubles. Being targeted by the Gorosei, this was certainly not a good thing. Moreover, it was extremely bad. Tokikake, launching a sneak attack from behind Trafalgar Law, taunted, "Kid, you can't be distracted in battle." Disgusting. 2 against 1, and you're still taunting me. Is this the shamelessness of the Marines? Trafalgar Law hastily used his Nomi ability to teleport himself away. Repeatedly using the Nomi to teleport himself away, he was certain to lose against two admirals. Trafalgar Law didn't know that Momosagi and Tokikake didn't possess the true admiral strength. They were only very close to it. Therefore, Trafalgar Law was still secretly thinking to himself, how could the admiral's strength be even inferior to Douglas bullets? Straw Hat Luffy, seeing Trafalgar Law surrounded, was also extremely anxious, shouting, Law, you must hold on. I'll deal with this guy and immediately come to your aid. Straw Hat Luffy, keep a close eye on your opponent. Rob Lucci directly used his beast form, unleashing his full attack power. Straw Hat Luffy also became serious, saying, since that's the case, don't blame me for being too ruthless, because I also want to use my full strength. After saying this, Straw Hat Luffy's body began to transform, his hair continuously turning white. Rob Lucci watched Luffy's transformed appearance, raising his eyebrows and whispering, "Is this the sun goddess Nika's form that the Gorosei intentionally instructed us to use? It seems we must eliminate her." Seeing this, Rob Lucci also activated his awakened Zoan Devil Fruit ability, but his power was far less than Luffy's. However, Rob Lucci remained confident in his own strength. Even though Luffy's awakened Devil Fruit ability was very strange, Rob Lucci wouldn't consider himself defeated. The ground beneath Luffy's head seemed to turn rubbery and elastic, and he chuckled, "Ha ha ha, so you've also awakened your Devil Fruit ability. But you can't beat me, Luffy, don't be so arrogant." Rob Lucci directly charged at Luffy, launching a barrage of attacks. Rob Lucci launched over 10 consecutive attacks, only to find that all his attacks were easily neutralized by Straw Hat Luffy. He became frustrated, especially since Luffy showed little reaction to his punches. It was as if his fists were hitting cotton, unable to inflict any substantial damage. Suddenly, Luffy's fist pierced Rob Lucci's stomach, nearly causing both his eyes to pop out. He spat out a large mouthful of blood. After rolling several times on the ground, Rob Lucci looked up at Luffy in disbelief, questioning, "You bastard, what is the source of your ability? Why can you fight like that?" "Ha ha ha," Straw Hat Luffy laughed in response, saying, "Because this is my free form, I can do whatever I want. So you're simply no match for me, no matter what kind of free form you are. Today I must capture you." Rob Lucci endured the pain in his stomach and lunged at Straw Hat Luffy again. At the same time, the situation on Trafalgar Law's side was extremely bad. One could say it was utterly disastrous. Even though Momosagi and Tokikake were only close to Admiral level strength, compared to Trafalgar Law, their strength was basically superior. Tokikake, smoking a cigar and stepping on Geppu, narrowed his eyes and said, "This guy's Op no Mi ability has become very difficult to deal with. If it weren't for the two of us teaming up, we wouldn't still be unable to take him down. Tokikake, you keep a close eye on him. Don't let him use his abilities to escape. I'll take the lead." Momosagi directly ordered Tokikake. Tokikake immediately replied with a smile, "All right, leave it to me, the most beautiful Ms. Momosagi." Today was a happy day for Tokikake. At least he was fighting alongside Momosagi. It was full of passion, and that's what Tokikake wanted. As for other things, Tokikake didn't think about it for now. Of course, he definitely couldn't let Trafalgar Law escape. Meanwhile, Trafalgar Law, while constantly exchanging blows with Momosagi, began to gasp for breath, maintaining the Op no Mi spatial ability, which was a huge drain on his energy. Furthermore, he also wanted to guard against Tokikake's sneak attack. After all, if he were successfully ambushed, he would be completely finished. He absolutely had to find a way to escape. He hoped the Straw Hat leader could quickly deal with the opponent and come to his aid. Otherwise, Trafalgar Law alone facing two people was simply impossible. Seeing this, Momosagi instantly increased her speed and swung her sword towards Trafalgar Law. "You've been tricked." Trafalgar Law had been waiting for this moment. He had deliberately revealed a weakness to let Momosagi charge forward. Therefore, Trafalgar Law directly awakened the Op no Mi ability and empowered his katana, instantly thrusting it straight through Momosagi's stomach. This was also a surprise attack, so Trafalgar Law knew that this technique could only succeed once, because the next time Momosagi would definitely be on guard. Momosagi wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and said seriously, "Trafalgar Law, your awakened Devil Fruit ability is very powerful. You were able to directly penetrate my Bisashoku Haki defense. However, next time I won't use this kind of technique like you did." Now Momosagi had a clearer understanding of the power of Trafalgar Law's awakened Op no Mi ability. It was indeed extraordinary, practically impossible to defend against, ignoring Bisashoku Haki defense and directly causing internal damage. Momosagi could already feel that her internal condition was deteriorating. That kind of technique couldn't be hit again. Momosagi herself is a woman, and not the kind of person with exceptionally strong physiques, only possessing formidable swordsmanship. Therefore, she will have to be even more cautious in her dealings with opponents. A figure rushed over in an instant, anxiously looking at Momosagi and asking, "Momosagi, are you all right? We've switched positions. I'll deal with Trafalgar Law. You go rest a bit, just make sure he doesn't escape." Tokikake was heartbroken. Momosagi was injured, which was unexpected. Since it had happened, it was necessary to prepare in advance. Momusagi thought for a moment, then nodded in agreement, saying, "Okay, I'll leave it to you, Tokikake. I'll go rest a bit." The reason was that Momusagi considered her current internal condition and felt that she really needed to rest a bit to allow her body to recover. The internal damage had indeed caused serious injuries. Tokikake, his face contorted with rage, glared at Trafalgar Law and said, "Kid, you injured Momusagi, so I'll get revenge on you tenfold." Replacement. Disgusting. Trafalgar Law's sweat dripped down, his breathing becoming erratic. At this moment, Trafalgar Law was nearing his limit. Tokikake licked his lips, looking at Trafalgar Law's mocking smile and saying, "Ha ha, Trafalgar Law, it seems you've almost reached your limit, so I'm going to officially arrest you. If you want to struggle, then struggle as much as you like." After all, with Trafalgar Law panting and his breathing becoming erratic, Tokikake felt he could easily take him down in 2 or 3 moves. Trafalgar Law took a deep breath and said seriously, "Want to capture me? Let's see if you have the ability. If you push me, I'll drag one of you down with me." "What? You dare to talk tough when you're about to die?" Tokikake was stunned. He couldn't believe that Trafalgar Law, facing such an unfavorable situation, would still dare to be so defiant. He was simply courting death. Tokikake was also preparing to unleash his malice, being mocked by such a brat. Only by killing Trafalgar Law could Tokikake's hatred be appeased. At this moment, the voice of Straw Hat Luffy came from not far away. Law, hold on a little longer. I'll deal with this leopard man soon." Trafalgar Law glanced over at Straw Hat Luffy's position, and indeed saw that Straw Hat Luffy was about to defeat his opponent, including Zoro, who was also gaining the upper hand. So if he just persevered, he might be saved, to be honest. Actually, Trafalgar Law wasn't sure either, but thankfully he had the help of the Straw Hat Master. Otherwise, with the Marines and CPO surrounding him, Trafalgar Law would be finished. Suddenly Momusagi shouted, "Tokikake, quickly dodge." Tokikake heard Momusagi's shout with a look of disbelief, and a moment later a bolt of lightning struck him from the sky. Boom! Enel, enveloped in lightning, stopped in midair, a smirk playing on his lips as he said, "Ha ha! This was quite a battle, wasn't it? However, I must quickly complete the mission Lord Kaido entrusted to me. Not playing around, that's good, you've improved," Redfield commented. Enel's ability to prioritize the mission showed his progress. Then Redfield and Enel appeared, drawing everyone's attention. Tokikake leapt from the ruins, angrily shouting, "You bastard! Who dares to ambush me?" But when Tokikake clearly saw who had arrived, he exclaimed in shock, "Redfield, Enel, from the Beast Pirates. How did you get here? Are you planning to attack our navy?" Tokikake wasn't stupid. He immediately realized that Redfield and Enel's appearance was likely to target the Marines. Momusagi's expression also turned grim as she said, "It seems we're really being targeted again. We can only request reinforcements." Hina, Smoker, and the others also became tense, as the Beast Pirate's power was now immense. After knocking Rob Lucci away with a punch, Straw Hat Luffy stopped and looked at Redfield and Enel, asking suspiciously, "What are they trying to do? Are they targeting the Marines? Anyway, we just have to be careful," Zoro reminded Luffy. After all, no matter what, these 2 members of the Beast Pirates were definitely not allies. It was possible that everyone here was their enemy, so caution was the best course of action. Dezana said dejectedly, as expected, staying to help Trafalgar Law wasn't a good thing. It just dragged us into a quagmire. In Dezana's opinion, the Straw Hat Pirates were essentially wasting their time and effort, and might even end up getting themselves killed. Trafalgar Law was somewhat better off, but he still couldn't calm down, as things had taken an unexpected turn. Redfield calmly said, "Enel, you go stop the Marines. I'll go capture Trafalgar Law." "Okay." Enel nodded in agreement. This was already prearranged. Redfield would capture Trafalgar Law, and he would stop the Marines. Relatively speaking, Enel preferred a battle with the Marines. Simply capturing someone wasn't enough for him. A moment later, Enel lunged towards Tokikake. Tokikake's expression changed as he cursed, "Damn it! They're definitely heading towards us." However, Momusagi noticed something was amiss, because she saw Redfield charging towards Trafalgar Law. This confirmed that Kaido of the Beast Pirates had sent someone targeting Trafalgar Law, not them. "They're targeting me," Trafalgar Law's eyes widened as he tried his best to stay calm, but he couldn't. At this moment, Trafalgar Law suddenly felt like he was some kind of jinx. Why was he being constantly targeted by the world government and the beast pirates? This was practically a death wish. Straw Hat Luffy, seeing this, also shouted anxiously, Law, I'll come help you right away. But before Straw Hat Luffy could charge forward, he was stopped by the Straw Hat Pirates. Luffy, agitated, shouted, Everyone, D-Law is in danger. Luffy, you need to prioritize the bigger picture. This isn't the time to act impulsively. The world government and the beast pirates are both targeting Trafalgar Law. What do you think the consequences of us interfering would be? Dezana retorted loudly. Sanji added, Luffy, Dezana is right. We shouldn't get involved. It's too risky for us. Usopp, Frank, and Brook also agreed with Dezana's statement. After all, the Straw Hat Pirates were simply not suited to getting involved. The risk factor was too high. But Luffy wanted to say something more, but the words remained unspoken. Straw Hat Luffy, being straightforward and strict, said that his crew was more important to him than anything else. He couldn't ignore the opinions of his crew members. Seeing that Luffy had listened, the Straw Hat Pirates finally breathed a sigh of relief. They were afraid that if Luffy continued acting impulsively, things would be really bad. The next moment, the Straw Hat Pirates carried Straw Hat Luffy away. He couldn't stay there any longer. Rob Lucci crawled up from the ground, blood still dripping from the corner of his mouth, angrily shouting, Straw Hat Luffy, you bastard. If you dare, let's fight for 10 days and 10 nights. Being completely defeated by Straw Hat Luffy had left Rob Lucci feeling extremely ashamed. He was determined to regain his honor, but Straw Hat Luffy ran away. Kaku walked over to Rob Lucci, who also had several bleeding wounds, and said, Lucci, forget it. The beast pirates have already joined. Let's think about what to do now. There was one thing Kaku didn't say. They were simply no match for the Straw Hat Pirates. Now that the Straw Hat Pirates had fled, at least they still had some face left. If they had truly fallen, that would have been a real problem. The Gorosei wouldn't spare the defeated. They would definitely face annihilation. The Straw Hat Pirates' escape was at least good news, in Kaku's opinion. Now they had to consider how to deal with Redfield and Enel from the Beast Pirates. Enel continued to launch fierce attacks on Tokikake, and Momoshage was forced to assist Tokikake. As for helping Trafalgar Law, how could that be? Even if he disliked Tokikake, among pirates and fellow pirates, he would naturally choose to help his colleagues. Facing Redfield, Trafalgar Law finally understood what true overwhelming power was. Clearly, the strength of Tokikake and Momoshage, these two admirals, was simply incomparable to Redfield's. At the same time, Trafalgar Law also understood how terrifying a king-level combatant was, just like Douglas Bullet. And then there was Kaido of the 100 Beasts. How powerful was he? Redfield continued to approach Trafalgar Law, lecturing him, Youngster, do you dare to be distracted facing me? The moment Redfield finished speaking, his figure vanished from sight. His speed was so fast, I couldn't see him. Trafalgar Law hastily used his Op Nomi ability to teleport himself to another location, avoiding Redfield's attack. However, an unexpected event occurred. As soon as Trafalgar Law moved to a new location, Redfield appeared behind him. This caused Trafalgar Law's eyes to widen in utter panic. He thought to himself, how is this possible? Could Redfield know my intended location? Otherwise, how could he accurately pinpoint my whereabouts? So Trafalgar Law had no choice but to use his Op Nomi ability again to teleport himself. But Redfield reappeared. As if he knew all his moves beforehand, Trafalgar Law refused to believe it. Redfield couldn't possibly have caught all his movements. Disgusting. I don't believe it. This time, Trafalgar Law increased his movement distance, making himself even further away. However, this time Redfield didn't immediately appear beside him, but only pursued him halfway. After this probing, Trafalgar Law finally confirmed that Redfield possessed the ability to predict his next move. However, if things continued like this, Trafalgar Law himself would soon be finished. He had already exhausted a large amount of his stamina dealing with Tokikake and Momoshage. Now, facing an even more powerful Redfield, Trafalgar Law was powerless and had no spare energy for an attack. Now for Trafalgar Law, the only option was to escape. Anything else would be suicidal. Redfield, wielding his sword, unleashed a flurry of flying slashes at Trafalgar Law, while laughing and saying, "It seems you've probably discovered my special ability, young man." Your ability, is it to predict the future? Trafalgar Law voiced his suspicion. After all, besides the ability to predict the future, he couldn't quite explain why Redfield could accurately predict his movements. Redfield paused his attack and praised, "Very good, young man. In such a short exchange, you've already figured out my ability to predict the future. This shows you still have some talent, but unfortunately, your fate ends here." Redfield's gaze became even sharper, signifying his growing seriousness. Not far away, Heart Pirates Beepo and his men ran over, shouting, "Captain, we've come to stop the enemy. You hurry and run. You guys aren't allowed to come any closer. Run for your lives." Trafalgar Law became anxious. If Beepo and his men were caught in the fighting, they would either die or be severely injured, and Trafalgar Law didn't want his crew to die because of him. Redfield glanced at the approaching group of small fry, and a plan immediately formed in his mind. The next moment, Redfield charged towards Heart Pirates Beepo and his men. Trafalgar Law cursed, "Those idiots! I knew it." Trafalgar Law had decided that even if he died, he had to let Beepo and his men escape. Trafalgar Law desperately pushed his body to its limits, using the large-scale spatial ability of the Op Nomi. The next moment, just as Redfield's attack was about to land on the Heart Pirates, they were instantly teleported away from him. However, Redfield smirked. This was all part of his plan. Trafalgar Law, having moved his companions away, hadn't even had time to breathe a sigh of relief when a blood-red bat bit his shoulder. Trafalgar Law immediately let out a scream. He exclaimed in surprise, "What is this? How did it suddenly appear beside me?" Without time to think, Trafalgar Law swung his weapon at the blood-red bat that had bitten him. But just as the blade was about to touch the bat's body, it vanished. What could it be? Trafalgar Law was stunned for a moment, then immediately looked at Redfield and said, "That blood-colored bat just now was your devil fruit ability, wasn't it?" Read the aloof, Redfield. "Kid, you do have some discerning eyes," Redfield replied with a half-smile. Ignoring his bleeding wounds, Trafalgar Law questioned Redfield, "Tell me, why do you beast pirates want to kill me? You have to give me a reason. I don't believe you're hunting me without a reason." After all, Trafalgar Law had already been hunted by the world government, and now he was being hunted by the beast pirates, so the reason was very important. Redfield, however, was very direct. "Kid, blame yourself for eating that Op Nomi ability." "So that's it. Is it because of the Op Nomi ability?" Trafalgar Law's expression instantly darkened. He had only suspected it before. But now he could basically confirm that both the world government and Kaido of the Beasts were eyeing the potential of the awakened Op Nomi ability. He discovered this after awakening the Op Nomi ability, and that the awakened Op Nomi possessed some kind of miraculous power. It seemed the world government's Gorosei and Kaido of the Beasts were interested in this ability, but no matter what, it couldn't fall into their hands. As long as he could successfully escape, he had to remain hidden and not show his face. As for Doflamingo, he could only deal with him in the future when the opportunity arose. Being targeted by Kaido and the Gorosei of Beasts is an extremely bad thing. Suddenly, Trafalgar Law spat out a large mouthful of fresh blood, and the Op Nomi spatial ability vanished without a trace. Redfield walked towards Trafalgar Law step by step, slowly saying, "Kid, it seems that maintaining your devil fruit ability is also a heavy burden for you. However, you'll stop here. Honestly, come back with me to meet Lord Kaido." "Impossible." Trafalgar Law's eyes turned bloodshot as he desperately pressed his body again, attempting to use his devil fruit's spatial ability. However, the moment Trafalgar Law used his ability, Redfield instantly appeared in front of him, slashing through his chest. Trafalgar Law rolled several times on the ground before finally stopping, but the blood on his body was flowing more and more. Redfield sarcastically remarked, "Kid, have you forgotten that I, the old man, can predict the future? So stop this pointless resistance. It's meaningless." According to Redfield, this brat named Trafalgar Law was just a futile struggle, completely pointless. Meanwhile, on the CPO side, Rob Lucci said, since Straw Hat Luffy escaped, we can't let Trafalgar Law fall into Kaido's hands. You guys stop Redfield, I'll capture Trafalgar Law. Although the CPOs were annoyed, they couldn't refuse. After all, Rob Lucci was their superior. Only Kaku had no objections, so the CPOs charged towards Redfield. Enel, on this side, was single-handedly holding off Momosagi and Tokikake, along with several marines, essentially unleashing all their firepower, leaving no room for maneuver. Of course, some marines had the idea of contributing without contributing, thinking that Enel alone wouldn't be able to stop so many people, let alone Momosagi and Tokikake. Redfield glanced at the charging CPO, frowning and saying, the world government's hounds are truly a persistent nuisance. A good opportunity. Trafalgar Law, still wounded, instantly sensed this was an excellent chance. If the world government marines and the beast pirates suffered heavy losses, then it would be his chance to escape. But Trafalgar Law's thoughts were immediately seen through by Redfield, who said, kid, you think you can run away after answering the phone? I advise you not to have such a pipe dream, because you have no chance whatsoever. HMPH, who knows what will happen if we don't try? Trafalgar Law wouldn't back down verbally, no matter what. He had to try and seize the opportunity. He couldn't possibly stay here waiting to die. That would be truly suicidal. Redfield withdrew his gaze from Trafalgar Law and looked at Rob Lucci and his group, mockingly saying, since you world government hounds are so eager to die, I'll grant your wish. Redfield's sharp gaze turned directly towards CPO Rob Lucci and his group. As for this Trafalgar Law kid, he couldn't possibly escape the clutches of their beast pirates. How could they let a duck they'd caught fly away? Trafalgar Law was still suspicious about this. Why hadn't Redfield continued chasing him? Regardless of the reason, this was a good opportunity for Trafalgar Law to escape. Enduring the intense pain in his body, Trafalgar Law once again used his spatial ability, whispering, this is a good opportunity. I must escape immediately. If I don't, I might not even have a small chance. As the large-scale blue Nomi spatial ability formed, Trafalgar Law instantly vanished from his spot and reappeared at the edge of the Nomi spatial ability. As soon as he did, Trafalgar Law couldn't help but spit out mouthfuls of fresh blood. At this moment, his condition was extremely dire. Trafalgar Law clutched his chest and said with difficulty, I never imagined I would be so severely depleted this time. If things go wrong, it could even endanger my lifespan, but I don't care about that too much. Trafalgar Law took a deep breath, preparing to use the Nomi spatial ability to leave again. Only by continuously doing this could he leave this place in the shortest amount of time. However, as soon as Trafalgar Law opened the blue sphere of his ability, it immediately dissipated. What? I can't even maintain my ability. Disgusting. Trafalgar Law began to feel dizzy. However, his strong willpower prevented him from falling immediately. He said with difficulty, I can't fall like this. Where do you think you're going, Trafalgar Law? Lord Kaido has ordered us to bring him back. A voice echoed from above Trafalgar Law. Trafalgar Law's face instantly changed drastically, because this voice wasn't Enel, nor was it the aloof Redfield, but someone else entirely. At that moment, Trafalgar Law's heart sank. Was this a death trap? When Trafalgar Law slowly looked up, he saw a man with a mask and flames burning behind his back. His eyes widened in disbelief as he said, the Beast Pirates Flame King, another troublesome character. Damn it, being targeted by the world government is bad enough. But being targeted by Kaido of the Beast Pirates is even worse. They won't even leave me a way out. However, although Trafalgar Law said that out loud, he was constantly thinking about how he could leave this cursed place. After leaving, he would definitely have to find a place to hide first. This feeling of being targeted by a top-tier figure in the world made Trafalgar Law extremely uneasy. The Flame King, with his arms crossed over his chest, slowly lowered his body and said, Trafalgar Law, how do you plan to escape from my grasp? Since we're here, we won't let you escape, nor will we let you fall into the hands of the world government. After all, you're a crucial target for Lord Kaido. HMPH, isn't it just about coveting my Nomi ability? How pretentious. Trafalgar Law replied dismissively. Trafalgar Law could see through the faces and mouths of these people. None of them were good people. King Flame Ear drew his katana and aimed it directly at Trafalgar Law, sneering, "Even someone like you, with so little strength left, dares to speak so arrogantly. You want to die." Seeing this, Trafalgar Law desperately tried to block King Flame Ear's attack. Bang! Bang! King Flame Ear's katana repeatedly struck Trafalgar Law's katana. With the next blow, Trafalgar Law was violently sent flying, tumbling dozens of meters across the ground before finally stopping. Trafalgar Law lay sprawled on the ground, gasping for breath, his entire body writhing in intense pain. One can imagine the excruciating physical pain he was enduring. With a vacant look in his eyes, Trafalgar Law said, "I'm truly being specially targeted. I've been continuously battling various masters." King Inflamed Ear slowly approached Trafalgar Law, also pulling at the sea stone handcuffs. Because King Inflamed Ear was wearing gloves, the sea stone didn't affect him. Trafalgar Law, lying prostrate on the ground, stared wide-eyed at the sea stone handcuffs in King Inflamed Ear's hand, gritting his teeth and saying, "Sea stone handcuffs. If I get them on, I'm completely finished. Stop here, Trafalgar Law. Honestly, come back with me to meet Lord Kaido." King Inflamed Ear crouched down, intending to put the sea stone handcuffs on Trafalgar Law. But something unexpected happened. Just as King Inflamed Ear's sea stone handcuffs were about to be placed on Trafalgar Law's hands, Trafalgar Law vanished from the spot. King Inflamed Ear's eyes instantly turned fierce, and he immediately transformed into his winged dragon form, soaring into the air, angrily shouting, "Good boy, Trafalgar Law. You actually managed to escape right under my nose. It seems you haven't reached your true limit yet." Over 1,000 meters from the coastline, Trafalgar Law appeared beneath a tree, hiding. A second later, he suddenly spat out a large mouthful of blood, then another large mouthful, and then another. Breathing heavily, he muttered, "I've been using the Nomi's power so relentlessly, and the consequence is that I've lost years of my life. But I don't care about that now. Losing a little life is still better than being captured by the world government or Kaido's beast tamer. I can't leave yet. That Flame King is circling in the air, constantly searching for me. Now I can only take a gamble. Whether I get captured or escape depends on fate." The flame-eared king circled in the air, flying back and forth rapidly, angrily shouting, "Damn brat. Do you think that by hiding, I can't find you? Since you won't come out, then I'll force you out." Trafalgar Law's eyes were filled with unwavering determination. He opened his hand, and the awakened Nomi ability enveloped his katana. However, at this moment, several strands of hair appeared on Trafalgar Law's head, a result of the massive depletion of his life force. The katana, now enveloped in the awakened ability, was suddenly thrust into the ground by Trafalgar Law. The katana instantly extended several hundred meters, and Trafalgar Law hastily jumped into the open underground passage. As Trafalgar Law jumped in, a large number of flame dragons entered the forest. Bang! Boom! Bang! Boom! The forest burned, the ground collapsed, and the Flame King continued to increase its attack power. However, while unleashing his attacks, the Flame King didn't forget to glance around to observe the movements within its visible range. Because Flame Ear King knew that Trafalgar Law could use the Nomi ability to teleport away, Flame Ear King naturally had to be on guard. But the Flame King kept glancing around and didn't detect any movement. In other words, this Trafalgar Law kid didn't use the Nomi's teleportation ability. So, the next moment, the Flame King plunged into the sea of fire, ignoring the burning flames, searching around, but still couldn't find Trafalgar Law's figure. Helplessly, the Flame King flew into the air again, his eyes turning blood red, angrily shouting, "Damn Trafalgar Law, you escaped again." This made the Flame King feel extremely guilty. This was a mission assigned to them by Lord Kaido. If they didn't do it well, Lord Kaido wouldn't punish him, but the Flame King himself was seriously negligent. Unbelievably, the Flame King once again plunged down to search for Trafalgar Law's figure. Deep underground, several hundred meters below the surface, Trafalgar Law was completely enveloped by the Nomi's unique spatial ability, surrounded entirely by rocks. His eyes glazed over. Trafalgar Law whispered, "I can't hold on much longer. I must find a way out. Even if they don't capture me, if I continue to wait in this environment, I'll inevitably face some unexpected situation. But at least there's a glimmer of hope for survival. The world government and Kaido of the Beasts, I remember you all." Don't give me another chance. I absolutely won't let you get away with it. I hope the Straw Hat Pirates are all right. If it weren't for his help, I'd probably have been taken away by the world government by now. At the same time, the Flame King flew to the battlefield. Momoshagi, Tokikake, and the others instantly tensed up. Another expert from the Beast Pirates. The Flame King? The situation was becoming increasingly unfavorable for them. Redfield and Enel both raised their eyebrows. Since the Flame King had arrived, did that mean they hadn't captured Trafalgar Law? Redfield inquired, did that brat escape? That's my responsibility, the Flame King said, taking responsibility for the mission's failure. As the last person to capture him, and yet Trafalgar Law escaped, the Flame King understood he had to bear the greatest responsibility. Enel, however, said nothing more, because Redfield and the Flame King were both of higher status than him. At this point, Enel and Redfield also stopped fighting with the Marine CP and the others. Redfield crossed his arms and slowly said, "Gentlemen, there is no need for us to continue fighting. In any case, our goal is Trafalgar Law. Currently, Trafalgar Law seems to have fled, so stop fighting. This is good news for you, because if we continue fighting, some of you might die." Redfield's threat was very serious, wanting these Marines and world government members to understand that honestly returning was their best option. Momoshagi, Tokikake, Rob Lucci, and the others exchanged glances. Continuing the fight would indeed be disadvantageous to them. Avoiding further combat was their best choice. Momoshagi proactively stood up and said, "Then, Redfield, let's settle this later." After saying this, Momoshagi waved her hand, signaling to begin retreating, and Redfield, Flame King, and Enel did not intend to stop them. After the Marines and CPO retreated a certain distance, Redfield turned his head to look at the Flame King, inquiring, "How did that little brat Trafalgar Law escape?" That brat clearly had a large amount of his stamina depleted, and he was also severely injured. He shouldn't have been able to escape from your grasp, right? In response to Redfield's question, the Flame King recounted the situation. Redfield, avoiding the ferocious gaze of the other man, said suspiciously, "So, that little brat Trafalgar Law might still be hiding somewhere. Excellent, let's chase." Redfield led the way, and the Flame King and Enel immediately followed. Trafalgar Law, surrounded by the awakened energy sphere of the Op no Mi, kept his attention focused outwards. Whispering, "Did the Flame King leave temporarily? Then I must seize this opportunity to escape. Only then will I be truly safe." The events unfolded after the battle concluded. In the Gorosei meeting room of Mariajwa, the Gorosei group burst into laughter. Topman Valkyrie Saint chuckled and said, "So Kaido of the Beast Pirates still makes mistakes sometimes. Who says so? Now it seems the Beast Pirates aren't invincible after all." Shepherd Repeater retorted sarcastically. Since the Summit War, the Beast Pirates had been invincible, so why couldn't they even capture Trafalgar Law? In other words, the Beast Pirates would also fail. Since the Beast Pirates would fail, the Gorosei's deep-seated worries lessened. Marcus Mars Saint nodded slightly and said, "The Beast Pirates acted very quickly. It's a good thing they didn't succeed this time, otherwise, Trafalgar Law falling into Kaido's hands wouldn't be a good thing." And then Baron V. Nas the Juro Saint also chimed in. "That's true. For example, if that Trafalgar Law fell into Kaido's hands, he might just achieve that. But for now, it seems we don't need to worry too much. That little brat Trafalgar Law successfully escaped this time, so he'll definitely hide a considerable distance away. We don't need to focus too much on Trafalgar Law anymore. Yes, after all, the awakened Op no Mi ability grants immortality, just like Lordum." Saint J. Garcia Saturn thought about what would happen if Kaido achieved immortality. If they weren't doomed now, they would be doomed sooner or later. After all, the defeat of the Beast Pirates this time was a great relief for the Gorosei. At the same time, in Wano's Beast Pirates territory, Redfield, Flame King, and Enel all returned. Kaido sat in the main seat, looking at the Boeing King, and laughed. "Ha ha ha, King, you don't need to blame yourself for this kind of thing. After all, it can only be said that Trafalgar Law kid is rather cunning. I'm sorry, Mr. Kaido. I requested the mission to capture Trafalgar Law and I will definitely bring him back to you." Flame King firmly requested instructions. Kaido waved his hand and said, "Rest assured, I will capture that kid myself. The three of you go and rest. Alright, Lord Kaido. Redfield and Enel respectfully replied and withdrew. Flame King clearly wanted to say something more, but after seeing Mr. Kaido's gaze, he understood. Therefore, King Inflammatory irrespectfully said, Mr. Kaido, I'll be going now. Just as King Flame Ear was about to retreat, Kaido suddenly appeared beside him. Kaido placed one hand on King Flame Ear's shoulder, his right eye glowing with the 6th Damo Rinnegan. Instantly recording Trafalgar Law's aura, Kaido slowly said, Let's go, King. King Flame Ear nodded respectfully and retreated. As King Flame Ear also retreated, Nicole Robin approached Lord Kaido, smiling as she said, Lord Kaido, Trafalgar Law has escaped. What method do you plan to use to capture him? After all, this ocean is so vast. Finding someone who deliberately tries to hide isn't that easy. Therefore, Nicole Robin was very curious about what method Lord Kaido would use to capture Trafalgar Law, and it certainly wouldn't be an ordinary method. How else could we capture Trafalgar Law? Kaido smirked, revealing a smile, and said, Just wait until I return. After saying this, Kaido's right eye transformed into a 6th Damo Rinnegan, and the next moment, he vanished from the spot. Nicole Robin, looking at where Lord Kaido had just been sitting, seemed to understand his thoughts and said, So Lord Kaido had to use that special method that deliberately placed I. That's probably it. I'm really looking forward to Lord Kaido capturing Trafalgar Law. Somewhere in the New World, on an uninhabited island, Trafalgar Law lay on the ground, looking up at the sky, smiling as he said, Finally, I've saved my life. It seems I need to hide for at least 5 years or more, otherwise I'll still be targeted by Kaido of the Beast Pirates. Trafalgar Law now recalled the scene of being surrounded by the world government and the Beast Pirates, and couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. Fundamentally, he couldn't stop their existence. His only hope now was that Beepo and the others were all right. You're very lucky, kid. A terrifying voice rang out, startling Trafalgar Law so much that he jumped up. The moment he saw who it was, Trafalgar Law was paralyzed with fear. It was Kaido of the Beasts. Trafalgar Law asked in terror, Kaido of the Beasts, how did you find me here? It's impossible to find me. Trafalgar Law felt like he was going crazy. He'd come all the way here, only to be discovered and chased by Kaido of the Beasts. This time, he was completely finished. There was no chance left. Trafalgar Law didn't know what countermeasures he might have against Kaido of the 100 Beasts. So Trafalgar Law got straight to the point and asked, So, can you tell me, Kaido, what is your purpose in hunting me down? The Ob no Mi ability, once awakened, can perform a life-saving surgery on a person at the cost of the user's life. Kaido slowly said, You probably figured that out after you awakened the Ob no Mi ability. That's right. Trafalgar Law was very helpless. The reason he was targeted was indeed his Ob no Mi ability. The Ob no Mi had cured his illness years ago, and now it truly wanted his life. After all, facing Kaido of the 100 Beasts, wanting to escape, simply wishful thinking. Trafalgar Law knew there was no way to escape from Kaido of the Beasts, so he could only temporarily think of ways to survive. However, there was something that puzzled Trafalgar Law greatly. Why could Kaido of the Beasts find him so accurately? Normally, he hadn't revealed any of his whereabouts, yet he was still found precisely. This made Trafalgar Law's scalp tingle. Doesn't this mean that Kaido can hunt down anyone he wants? No one can escape from Kaido of the Beasts. Kaido smirked, revealing an evil grin. Ha ha, Trafalgar Law, are you wondering why I can find you so accurately? You are the most powerful and awe-inspiring person in the world. So could you tell me? Trafalgar Law's curiosity was indeed piqued by Kaido of the Beasts. But facing the powerful Kaido, Trafalgar Law chose to bow his head. He genuinely wanted to know the reason behind this, because it was too terrifying. What if he had a chance to escape in the future, only to be caught by Kaido again? That would be a death worse than death. Kaido could see through Trafalgar Law's thoughts, but he didn't intend to reveal them, as revealing them would only worsen the situation. Kaido grabbed Trafalgar Law's shoulder, then attached the stone handcuffs to him, saying, You figure it out yourself. If you don't tell me what you're talking about, I won't perform the eternal life surgery on you, Beast King Kaido. Don't think I don't know your purpose. Not getting the answer he wanted, Trafalgar Law angrily pressed for clarification. He absolutely had to get to the bottom of this, otherwise, he would be restless. Furthermore, Beast King Kaido's relentless pursuit of him was solely for the eternal life surgery. This was the only reason Trafalgar Law could have captured him. He had to use this as a final bargaining chip. If he didn't perform the Eternal Life surgery for Beast King Kaido, then Kaido wouldn't be able to obtain the Eternal Life Body ability. Kaido looked at Trafalgar Law and slowly said, "Whether or not you perform the Eternal Life surgery isn't up to you." Trafalgar Law immediately sensed something was amiss. Kaido's tone sounded as if he could powerfully control him. This was the key. Trafalgar Law was also terrified. A moment later, Trafalgar Law was dragged away by Kaido and disappeared from sight. At the same time, on Onigashima Island in Wano Country, two figures appeared, Kaido and Trafalgar Law, who had been dragged away. Seeing his surroundings, Trafalgar Law exclaimed in shock, "Is this Wano Country, Onigashima? It seems you've done some research on Wano Country." Kaido wasn't surprised by Trafalgar Law's knowledge of Wano. It could be said that since Kaido himself had gained his current reputation, people of considerable power and status throughout the world had been investigating Wano Country. However, these things were nothing to Kaido, the Beast King. Not far away, a man named Flame Air King approached. Upon reaching Lord Kaido, he respectfully said, "Lord Kaido's current strength fills me with even greater admiration. No one in this world can stop your advance." "King, keep a close watch on Trafalgar Law," Kaido commanded. "Yes, Lord Kaido," Flame Air King respectfully replied. Lord Kaido had entrusted him with the task of guarding Trafalgar Law, and even at the cost of his own life, he could not allow Trafalgar Law to escape. If Trafalgar Law escaped, Flame Air King felt he could atone for it with his own death. After returning to his residence, Kaido summoned Nicole Robin. Upon approaching Lord Kaido, Nicole Robin respectfully inquired, "Lord Kaido, I heard that once you capture Trafalgar Law, there's nothing you can't handle." To Nicole Robin, Lord Kaido now seemed omnipotent. Nothing could stop him. Whatever Lord Kaido wanted done, he would definitely accomplish it. This was Nicole Robin's most intuitive feeling at the moment. Kaido didn't take these flattering words to heart and ordered, "Did you bring the Big Mom Charlotte Lin phone?" "Yes, Lord Kaido," Nicole Robin respectfully replied, taking out the Big Mom Charlotte Lin phone and handing it to Lord Kaido. Then Nicole Robin respectfully stood beside Lord Kaido. Kaido dialed Big Mom Charlotte Lin's number. Ring, ring, ring. The phone rang for less than 5 seconds before being answered, and Big Mom Charlotte Lin's laughter could be heard. "Hey Kaido, just give me your orders. After all, I'm the vice captain of the Beast Pirates, and you're my captain." Big Mom Charlotte Lin's laughter echoed through the phone. Kaido was too lazy to waste time talking nonsense with Big Mom Charlotte Lin and directly ordered, "Lin, bring your daughter Pudding to me. I need her devil fruit ability to do something." "Pudding? Okay, Captain Kaido." Big Mom Charlotte Lin had no objections to this and couldn't possibly have any. After all, it was the captain's order. Big Mom Charlotte Lin didn't dare disobey. Things weren't like they were back then. Now Kaido could easily eliminate him if he wanted to. Therefore, Big Mom Charlotte Lin was very low-key and obedient in front of Kaido, so that he could continue to live with dignity. A day later, Redfield brought Pudding back from the land of the 1,000 nations. Throughout the journey, Pudding kept her head down, trembling with fear. Seeing Kaido, the Beast King, for the first time, it would be a lie to say she wasn't scared. Redfield led Pudding to Lord Kaido's main hall and respectfully said, "Lord Kaido, I brought Pudding back." Pudding hurriedly followed suit, respectfully saying, "Greetings, Lord Kaido. My mother has already instructed me to do everything I can to complete your orders." This Lord Kaido was even more terrifying than her mother. Pudding was afraid of making even the slightest mistake, the consequences of which were unimaginable. Kaido slowly rose and walked down, saying, "Follow me." "Yes, Lord Kaido." Pudding was slightly startled, then quickly responded respectfully, immediately following Lord Kaido's footsteps. When Kaido brought Pudding into the Onigashima dungeon, the Flame King stayed by Trafalgar Law's side the entire time, guarding him even during meals and sleep. Ensuring not a single mistake occurred, the exhausted and severely injured Trafalgar Law, upon seeing Kaido approaching, knew his fate was likely to be inhuman torture. Pudding, following behind Lord Kaido, saw Trafalgar Law and knew what to do. The Memo no Mi ability was meant to be used on this man. The Flame King respectfully said, "Lord Kaido, After nodding, Kaido calmly said to Pudding, go and erase all of this man's memories. Yes, Lord Kaido. Pudding didn't ask for any reason, and upon reaching Trafalgar Law, she activated the Memo no Mi fruit ability. Trafalgar Law's eyes widened in disbelief as he stared at the approaching woman, frantically questioning. Erase my memory. Kaido of the Beasts, what do you intend to do to me? How is that possible? At this moment, Trafalgar Law truly began to panic. Erasing memories was simply unbelievable. He couldn't have imagined this woman possessed such an ability. Simultaneously, Trafalgar Law knew that once his memory was completely erased, he would no longer be himself. After all, a memoryless person was no different from a soulless corpse. Ultimately, Kaido of the Beasts is too vicious. Now, it seems that death is inevitable anyway. Even if he performs an immortality surgery for Kaido, he will still die. Trafalgar Law, restrained by the sea stone handcuffs and severely injured, had absolutely no strength to stop Pudding's next move. Watching the woman's hand getting closer and closer, he shouted in utter terror and anger, "Wait a minute. Give me a moment. I, Kaido of the Beasts, have conditions to negotiate with you. If you agree to my conditions, then I can perform the immortality surgery for you." There was no other way. Trafalgar Law could only use his last resort. Truly, the current situation was a death sentence for him. Pudding, however, did not stop her actions because since Lord Kaido hadn't given the order to stop, she would continue. Before setting off for Wano, his mother kept reminding him that once he arrived in Lord Kaido's territory, no matter what, he had to resolutely follow Lord Kaido's orders, otherwise the consequence would be death. Therefore, for his own survival, Pudding ignored Trafalgar Law's roars and focused on erasing all of Trafalgar Law's memories. Beside Kaido, the Flame King said incredulously, "I never imagined that Charlotte Linland's daughter possessed such a miraculous ability. Although her combat power isn't strong, as a support character, she's an excellent asset." The Flame King could already see significant strategic importance in Pudding. If her abilities were properly utilized, they could potentially yield unimaginable results. Kaido looked at King with fiery eyes and slowly said, "The Memo no Mi's abilities can indeed produce many unimaginable effects, but no matter how much it changes, it never deviates from its essence. Inner strength is the key to everything." "Mr. Kaido, you are absolutely right," Flame King replied respectfully, clasping his hands. In Flame King's heart, Mr. Kaido's words were the absolute truth of this world. As Pudding pulled out more and more memories, Trafalgar Law also cried out in pain, "Ah! Ah!" This frenzied behavior awakened a deep evil within Pudding, and a wicked smile involuntarily appeared on his lips. King Inflamed Ears raised his eyebrows in an instant, clearly noticing Pudding's reaction at that moment. This reaction wasn't a good sign, so he turned to look at Mr. Kaido. Since he could notice, then Lord Kaido could too. Therefore, King Inflamed Ears was very curious about Mr. Kaido's different perspective on this. Kaido smiled and replied, "It's nothing, King. Pudding's simple psychological state is just a twisted psychology caused by childhood trauma. Since Mr. Kaido thinks it's nothing, I won't be surprised," King Inflamed Ears respectfully replied. Trafalgar Law possessed a vast amount of memories, spanning over 20 years. Pudding couldn't possibly erase this enormous amount in a short time. However, Kaido and the Flame King didn't leave, but waited beside Pudding. Outside, the women gathered together. Black Maria, smoking and smiling, said, as expected of Lord Kaido, after capturing Trafalgar Law, he immediately thought of a solution. "No matter what, this is our Lord Kaido. His methods are certainly not ordinary." Genty, remembering Lord Kaido, began to respond with immense admiration. In Genty's opinion, no one in the past 1,000 years had been more outstanding than Lord Kaido. Nami also said, "But speaking of which, the Memo no Mi's ability is truly terrifying. If our memories were erased, just thinking about it makes one feel uneasy and gives them goosebumps." That's right. Losing memories is equivalent to losing oneself. Nicole Robin also felt that the Memo no Mi's ability was indeed a rogue ability, one that was extremely unfriendly to people. Erasing someone's memory is not necessarily a good thing. It was also here that Kozuki Hiyori said, even with such powerful devil fruit abilities, the person using them must possess exceptional talent, otherwise It would be a waste of a powerful devil fruit ability. Haori is absolutely right, Tama replied in agreement. In the dungeon, after nearly 5 hours, Pudding finally extracted all of Trafalgar Law's memories. This amount of work almost caused Pudding to faint from exhaustion, as her physical strength simply couldn't withstand the prolonged use of the Memo no Mi's abilities. This was achieved through Pudding's unwavering belief, a result that was incredibly difficult to achieve. Without this strong belief, Pudding would have collapsed from exhaustion long ago. Now it could be said that only one final step remained. Trafalgar Law knew his life was about to end. His entire memory was being ripped out. Looking at the large stack of memory scrolls beside him, he knew that once his memory was severed, he would no longer be himself. The persona of Trafalgar Law would cease to exist. Trafalgar Law gritted his teeth and cursed, "Woman, I will not let you get away with this. And Kaido of the 100 Beasts, remember this. Don't let me get the chance. Even if I die, I will not let you go." A futile struggle, the Flame King scoffed dismissively. In this state, he still dared to curse Mr. Kaido. He even wanted to kill Mr. Kaido. In the Flame King's eyes, Trafalgar Law was simply overestimating himself, completely unaware of his own fighting strength. Pudding replied indifferently, "Your curses are useless." Pudding picked up the scissors, aimed them at Trafalgar Law, and completely ripped out his memories. Wait a moment. Wait a moment. Trafalgar Law shouted desperately, but the next moment, Trafalgar Law's shouting stopped, and no sound came from him. He wasn't dead, but he had lost all his memories, becoming a living corpse. The Flame Air King commented, "This is capable of completely eradicating a person, and it's a deep eradication at that." Pudding forced a breath and respectfully reported, "Lord Kaido, Pudding is not responsible, but I have finally severed all of this person's memories. Well done, Pudding. King, take him down to rest." Kaido waved his hand, giving a satisfied command. The Flame Air King respectfully replied, "Yes, Mr. Kaido." The moment the Flame Air King finished speaking, Pudding finally couldn't hold on any longer and completely fainted. Such a massive exhaustion, having persevered until now, was an extremely difficult feat for him. At least, he had finally completed the task entrusted to him by Lord Kaido. Pudding calmed down slightly before completely falling into a coma. After the Flame Ear King carried Pudding away, Kaido slowly walked to Trafalgar Law, who had been brought back to life. Kaido placed his hand on Trafalgar Law's head and slowly said, "If I hadn't completely erased your memories, there would have been a risk in using the 6th Damo Rinnegan to control you and perform the immortality surgery. But now that Trafalgar Law's memories have been completely erased, that risk has been greatly reduced." As the 6th Damo Rinnegan's power continued to increase within Trafalgar Law, the next moment Trafalgar Law's right eye also transformed into a 6th Damo Rinnegan like Kaido's. However, the 6th Damo Rinnegan that appeared in Trafalgar Law's right eye was only superficial, a projection of the power. As the 6th Damo Rinnegan's power continued to increase, Trafalgar Law seemed to come back to life. Kaido slowly said, "Even with the Memo no Mi's ability to erase memories, it's not 100% certain that they can be completely erased. There's still a possibility of recovery, but that possibility is very low. Delay will only lead to complications. Let's quickly use Trafalgar Law to perform the immortality surgery on me." 3 days later, in a special secret chamber in Wano country, Trafalgar Law's expressionless face reflected the 6th Damo Rinnegan and the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan patterns in his eyes. Under duress, Trafalgar Law performed surgery to awaken the Op no Mi ability, granting him immortality. Time continued to pass. This special surgery could not be completed in a short time. Within the Beast Pirates, Enel sat on a stone golem, eating his favorite apple, and curiously inquired, "Do you think Lord Kaido can truly attain immortality? If so, that would be incredibly unbelievable." "I also find it unbelievable, but that's Lord Kaido's business, not something we can decide," replied Shichimoku respectfully. Walking towards Whitebeard, he chuckled and said, "It's fluttering like a breeze. If Kaido can truly obtain immortality, then the world government will be completely restless." In any case, Whitebeard felt extremely satisfied at the moment. For Kaido to be so passive towards the world government was something he hadn't seen in hundreds of years. Now Redfield, with extraordinary admiration for Lord Kaido, smiled and said, "Lord Kaido, your future achievements will be even greater." Far beyond the reach of you and me, Trafalgar Law had completely lost all signs of life, lying on the ground. Kaido opened his 6-Damo Rinnegan and observed the overall changes in his body. He could confirm that a transformation had indeed occurred, but it seemed as if his potential had been locked. Kaido chuckled softly, saying, "But it doesn't matter. This kind of potential lock, for the power of the 6-Damo Rinnegan, only requires a little time to unlock. It's simply that this kind of otherworldly ability has disappeared. But at this stage, it truly gives me plenty of time." Kaido wasn't in a hurry because his current strength was enough to sweep across the world, and his time-space travel ability was still in its cooldown. Therefore, for Kaido, he needed plenty of time. Nicole Robin approached and respectfully said, "Congratulations, Lord Kaido. What's next?" "Mobilize all personnel, destroy the Navy and the world government for me. I've given them ample time to prepare, yet they still can't satisfy me. Then I'll truly underestimate them." "Yes, Lord Kaido, I will immediately relay your orders." Nicole Robin respectfully withdrew. Before arriving, Nicole Robin had already guessed that Lord Kaido intended to attack the world government, and it was indeed true. As for the world government, it's best to quickly eliminate them. After their destruction, they should conduct a major purge of the entire world. Those who are willing to obey will join, those who are unwilling will be completely annihilated. As the Beast Pirates personnel continued to mobilize, the news inevitably spread. After all, large-scale operations cannot be kept secret. The Marine headquarters and the world government were now like ants on a hot skillet, frantically pacing back and forth. After all, Kaido of the Beasts wanted to attack them, and they couldn't just sit and wait to die. However, Kaido's immense power was a deeply despairing reality. Admiral Sakazuki immediately headed to the Gorosei's meeting room in Muriegewa. Smoking his cigar, Sakazuki shouted, "Gorosei, if Kaido starts attacking, we must attack immediately. Kaido's massive battle formation is simply a joke." Sakazuki was furious that Kaido had probably made such a big fuss, as if he didn't know they were about to attack. He had made them feel like ants on a hot skillet, and according to Sakazuki, they should immediately launch a counterattack, even if it meant death. There's still some hope of victory there. Under normal circumstances, if Sakazuki had roared, the Gorosei would have immediately started fighting him. But now, the Gorosei had calmed down and were continuously discussing countermeasures. To defeat Kaido of the 100 Beasts, they needed absolute strength. Otherwise, everything would be equally bad. Without absolute strength to surpass Kaido of the 100 Beasts, they would ultimately be the ones to lose. And then Baron V. Nasujiro-san said, "All right, Sakazuki, you don't need to keep shouting here. Immediately return and mobilize all personnel for the final decisive battle against Kaido of the 100 Beasts. HMPH. I know." Sakazuki flicked his cloak and turned to leave the holy land of Muriegewa. Because Sakazuki had also realized that talking to the Gorosei was completely pointless. It was better to return and prepare quickly. Relying on the world government is fundamentally unreliable and fundamentally impossible. After Sakazuki left the holy land of Muriegewa, the 5 Gorosei went to find Lord M. At this point, the 5 Gorosei dared not make any rash decisions, as it was a matter of life and death. Only Lord M had the means to stop this impending disaster. If Lord M couldn't do it, then their 800 years of rule would be completely over. The 5 Gorosei respectfully knelt before Lord M, saying, "Lord M, we have come." M stood silently, gazing at the sky, not answering the Gorosei, seemingly lost in thought. Since Lord M didn't speak, the 5 Gorosei also dared not say anything, remaining kneeling and awaiting Lord M's orders. After about 3 minutes, M slowly opened his mouth and said, "This time, we will most likely lose. The chances of winning are very low." M himself didn't want to admit this, but the truth was right before his eyes, forcing him to acknowledge that Kaido of the 100 Beasts was far stronger than him. The Gorosei felt a chill in their hearts after hearing Lord M's reply. Saint J. Garcia Saturn said unwillingly, "Lord M, is our world government going to end like this? We've ruled for 800 years. They had always been the ones to destroy others. When did it become that they were the ones to be destroyed?" But now that the truth was laid bare, it made Saint J. Garcia Saturn's scalp tingle, and a deep-seated fear surged within him. Ethan Baron v. Nasujiro Saint inquired, Lord M, you just said we have a very high probability of being defeated by Kaido of the 100 Beasts. Does that mean our world government still has a very low chance of winning? As long as we have a chance of winning, we still have a chance. With Ethan Baron v. Nasujiro Saint's reminder, the other four Gorose's minds instantly cleared. It seemed that their world government wasn't completely without a chance of winning. As long as there was a chance, there was still an opportunity. They had been overly frightened just now. Their world government had always been successful. So when had they ever been so terrified because of Kaido of the 100 Beasts? This kind of thing, which was fundamentally impossible before, and in their opinion, it was impossible, has actually happened. Appo, both scared and excited, said, in the end, will the world government continue its rule, or will it be replaced by Kaido of the Beasts? Anyway, no matter what, let's quietly observe the situation first. Hawkins, however, viewed the matter more conservatively. After all, if Kaido of the Beasts wins, they'll join him. If the world government wins, then they'll just continue sailing the seas on their own. Kid said irritably, after all this time, we're just like henchmen, HMPH. It's so annoying. At least we haven't lost our lives. Trafalgar Law has already been killed, Killer reminded him. Meanwhile, on the Straw Hat Pirates' side, Luffy said dejectedly, everyone, D-Law is dead. Luffy, now isn't the time for us to worry about these things. We need to focus on the decisive battle between Kaido of the Beasts and the world government, Dezana reminded him. After all, it's the fate of the entire world, and Luffy is still thinking about Trafalgar Law. It really made Dezana very concerned. Sanji said, times change too fast. If Kaido of the Beasts wins, we can't continue sailing the seas, otherwise we'll definitely be eliminated. Sanji is absolutely right. Usopp nodded in agreement. Zoro wiped his weapon and said, it's useless to be anxious or overthink things. Let's wait. We'll talk about it when they decide the winner. That's the only way, Brook replied. Luffy looked at his hands and said, I've already awakened my freeform power, and yet, is the difference still that great? Why does Kaido of the Beasts have such immense power? Disgusting. As long as Kaido of the Beasts is alive, doesn't that mean I'll never have the chance to become the Pirate King in my entire life? Currently, Straw Hat Luffy is actually very frustrated. He wants to become the Pirate King, but there's a huge mountain like Kaido of the Beasts depressing him. Where does he even have a chance to become the Pirate King? Dezana said, the most important thing is that we can live. If we die, then we'll truly have nothing left. Dezana values her own life highly. Death is like losing everything. The 7 warlords of the sea haven't been deposed yet. In the land of women, the old woman paced back and forth anxiously, saying the world government is completely heartless. Facing an enemy like Kaido of the Beasts, they still want to summon the 7 warlords of the sea. Snake Princess, you don't need to go this time. The world government will most likely be unable to defeat Kaido of the Beasts, and the highest power in this world will fall into Kaido's hands. Sitting on a chair, Boa Hancock's head was practically spinning right now, unable to comprehend the situation where Kaido of the Beasts had arrived to destroy the world government. Boa Hancock replied, don't worry, the world government sent a summons to the 7 warlords of the sea. I won't pay any attention to it, nor do I intend to. Those damn celestial dragons have finally been wiped out. That's right. The old woman nodded in agreement, saying Kaido of the Beasts has extraordinary fighting power and so many powerful subordinates. As for the Navy and the world government, they really don't have much chance of winning. After all, the old woman had very little respect for the world government. This time, the world government's rule was over. The old woman spoke again. Snake Princess, this time you will join the Beast Pirates team to attack the world government? Then we can also harvest some support from Kaido of the Beasts. In the Dressrosa Royal Palace, since receiving the news, Doflamingo's maniacal laughter had never stopped. No, celestial dragons. Your peaceful days are over. This time, Lord Kaido will definitely wipe you all out. It's so exciting. When that happens, I'll also set foot in the holy land of Mariagua. Look at those idiotic, terrified celestial dragons. This is all fate. Before we even reach the new world, the ruler will be Lord Kaido, and he will rule indefinitely, unshakable. Doflamingo said this because he knew that Trafalgar Law had been captured by Lord Kaido. The outcome was obvious. Lord Kaido would gain immortality, and with that, the future would be one of eternal rule. To be honest, Doflamingo envied Lord Kaido, but he also knew he didn't possess such immense power. Therefore, envy was pointless. It was better to think carefully about how to perform even better in front of Lord Kaido in the future. Lord Kaido's subsequent destruction of the world government was clearly intended to redistribute the world's resources, and those who contributed would undoubtedly reap even greater benefits. Doflamingo was currently focused on this point. At the same time, the other 7 warlords of the sea, including Hawkeye Mihawk, did not intend to participate in this world war, choosing instead to remain neutral, hidden in a corner of the New World, the Blackbeard pirates. At this moment, Blackbeard Teach's face was truly grim, looking quite unpleasant, unable even to smile. Shiryu of the Rain calmly said, "Strictly speaking, our situation is not good. After all, we are a considerable force, so we will definitely be targeted. This is a very big problem. This is fate's arrangement." Van Augur, aiming his rifle at the sky, replied. Doc Q, still looking sickly, said, "In the end, regardless of whether Kaido of the Beasts wins or the world government wins, we'll all be under Dial's watchful eye. Isn't that just a matter of us all facing certain death?" Burgess retorted dejectedly. He really didn't want to face death, he wanted to survive. Luffy looked at Captain Teach and asked, "Captain Teach, please give the order. In this situation, we should at least do something to avoid being too passive." Ha ha ha, Blackbeard Teach suddenly laughed again, saying, "Laffit, you're right. In this situation, we really do need to do something to gain fortune in danger. As long as we seize the opportunity, soaring to the top again will be as easy as pie." Blackbeard Teach wasn't one to hesitate. Once he made a decision, he would immediately take action. With patriotism, the entire Revolutionary Army headquarters is gathered here at this very moment. The final decisive battle between Kaido of the Beast Pirates and the world government will have a huge impact on the Revolutionary Army. Ivankov said anxiously, "Dragon, what should we do? Should we also take action?" The Beast Pirates' decisive battle against the world government will definitely result in huge casualties. Then we can reap the spoils and surely achieve a good victory. It's no wonder Ivankov was so flustered and anxious. Their revolutionary army has always aimed to defeat the world government, and now the world government is being targeted by Kaido of the Beast Pirates, based on current intelligence. The Beast Pirates' chances of defeating the world government are at least 90% or more. If Kaido of the Beasts achieves victory, where will their revolutionary army go? After so many years of effort, will it all be in vain? To be honest, Ivankov was very unwilling. And with Ivankov's words, the others present also looked displeased. Sabo said worriedly, "Ivankov is right. If we just give up like this, all our efforts over the years will be for nothing." "Mr. Dragon, what is your decision?" Sabo looked at their leader, Mr. Dragon. As the real decision rested with him, Dragon sighed, saying, "Fate is cruel. Even Kaido of the Beasts wasn't as overbearing as he is now. How did he acquire such power? He possesses overwhelming strength that disregards everything." Dragon said these words with genuine admiration. If he could possess the strength of Kaido of the 100 Beasts, he could have easily taken down the world government in an instant. Their numbers were completely useless against Kaido. Dragon spoke again, saying, "But everyone, please rest assured, I will not let you sacrifice yourselves. If it truly comes to a desperate situation, we must make the right choices." Northern Army Commander Karasu said, "I agree with the Dragon Commander's decision. There's no need for meaningless sacrifices, especially when facing Kaido of the 100 Beasts. In this war, Kaido of the 100 Beasts is almost certain to win. The era of the world government is coming to an end." According to Karasu, Kaido's victory over the world government was basically a done deal. Betty suggested, "Our revolutionary army isn't weak either. I think we could try negotiating with Beast Kaido to see if we can gain any advantage. But I'm afraid Beast Kaido is even more terrifying and brutal than the world government," Lindbergh added. "After all, Beast Kaido has a terrible reputation. He's definitely a tyrant." Dragon gestured for silence, saying, "Let's just observe the situation first. Judging from the current circumstances, there's still some time before Beast Kaido and the world government finally go to war. The New World Whitebeard family's patriarch and all the disbanded members of the Whitebeard pirates were present. Marco told them about his father's situation. Diamond Jozu inquired, "Marco, you just said that Dad won't be participating in the war between Beast Kaido and the world government?" The others were also waiting for Marco's confirmation. Since their father was in Wano, they weren't worried about the possibility of it being fake. Marco nodded slightly and replied, "Yes, my father just called and told me that he won't be involved in Kaido's attack on the world government." "That's good. At least my father's life isn't in danger," Vista sighed in relief. After all, they were very worried about whether their father would be dragged into it after hearing that Kaido wanted to attack the world government, but now it seems their worries are different. Ace smiled and said, "It seems we don't need to worry about our father's safety anymore." "That's right. He was practically trying to kill us before," Rakuyo added. As fathers, their greatest worrying right now is the safety of their father's life. But now, finally, he's all right. The Beast Pirates' movements weren't swift, as if they were telling the Navy and the world government, "I'll give you more time to prepare, and I'm not afraid of any tricks." The New World G1 Navy headquarters had already assembled elite naval forces from around the world, and the high-ranking officials held an emergency meeting. This was a moment of life and death for them. All the vice admirals were busy mobilizing personnel, while the three admirals were discussing countermeasures in the marshal's office. Debating how to face the final battle, Momousagi, with a worried expression, said, "To be honest, our navy has no chance of winning. If the world government doesn't deploy enough forces at that time, we will surely perish." Momousagi had made his words very clear. The three people present could certainly understand what he meant because their navy truly lacked the strength to confront the beast pirates. It's not that the lower ranks lack sufficient military strength, but rather the disparity in combat power at the higher levels that's incredibly fatal. The Navy, once the undisputed ruler of the seas, possessed the strongest combat power, unmatched by any other organization except the world government. Yet now, that dominant position has been usurped by the beast pirates. And that's not all. Kaido of the beast pirates is incredibly powerful. His combat strength far surpasses that of an admiral. That's what's truly terrifying. If they can't defeat Kaido of the beast pirates, then no matter how many schemes they have, it's all for naught. But is Kaido a defeatable existence? Momousagi couldn't figure out how to defeat Kaido. Tokikake, similarly worried, said, "So what should we do? We're doomed to lose anyway. Why don't we think about a way out?" "Tokikake, what do you want to do?" "Believe it or not, I'll capture you first." Sakazuki instantly questioned coldly, "I hope you won't say such things again. We, as righteous Marines, will fight to the end, no matter how strong the pirates are." Tokikake, intimidated by Sakazuki's words, chose to keep quiet, because Sakazuki's strength was considerably greater than his, and there was no need to take such a risk. Kizaru, meanwhile, maintained a humble demeanor while trimming his nails. He wouldn't be as foolish as Tokikake, blurting out such a statement directly in front of him. When there's genuine danger to one's life, then running away is the best option. Outwardly, one must still maintain a good demeanor. Kizaru, however, deeply understood this principle. Sacrificing one's life is not an option, Kizaru believed. Sakazuki, puffing on his cigar, continued, "I know you're worried. What I mean is, even if Kaido of the 100 Beasts is a monster, if he's a human, then he has flesh and blood. And since he has flesh and blood, he will die. Of course, he will die. We don't need to be afraid. There's always a way to kill Kaido of the 100 Beasts." Sakazuki spoke with unwavering conviction, because he firmly believed that his Magu Magu no Mi Devil Fruit ability would ensure he could injure Kaido of the 100 Beasts. Kizaru, who was meticulously manicuring, reminded them, "Our enemy isn't just Kaido of the 100 Beasts alone. You should know that the Beast Pirates are a group of top-tier fighters. Just Redfield, Big Mom Charlotte, and Whitebeard alone are enough to overwhelm the Navy and the world government. Excluding Kaido of the Beast Pirates, there are 3 others, Enel, the Flame King, Katakuri, and a whole host of other powerful individuals. That's their combined strength." Kizaru specifically reminded Sakazuki not to focus all his attention on Kaido of the Beast Pirates. Kizaru knew Sakazuki desperately wanted to eliminate Kaido, but the Beast Pirates were no longer just a force in terms of size, but a truly world-destroying superpower. Adding Kaido to the mix made them even more powerful than the Navy and the world government combined. How could they possibly defeat such a powerful force? Kizaru actually still strongly supported Momosagi's argument. The Navy would undoubtedly lose against the Beast Pirates. There was no way around it. The overall disparity in strength is too great, but Kizaru wouldn't say such things now. He'd just maintain a facade, so that his escape wouldn't attract too much attention. Honestly, death is death, and even if it's just temporary survival, it's still life, better than death. As for Sakazuki wanting to pursue his sense of justice, let him pursue it. Kizaru's words, however, made Sakazuki ponder. These issues certainly needed to be considered. Momosagi and Tokikake's expressions worsened. The power of the Beast Pirates had exceeded all expectations. Sakazuki rubbed his temples and said, "There's another matter. See who you can send to escort the hidden celestial dragons. It's really troublesome, even more so than a war, and we're still worried about the celestial dragons." Momosagi raised her eyebrows upon hearing this. This kind of thing is basically a waste of effort and yields no results. Now the celestial dragons are a hindrance, unless they are the elite celestial dragons. Kizaru, still maintaining his humble demeanor, suggested, "Then let Colonel Kobe escort the celestial dragons to safety." No matter what, Kobe is still very outstanding among the new Marines, and he's another promising disciple of Vice Admiral Garp. Kobe? Maybe it's him. Sakazuki nodded in agreement after hearing Kizaru's suggestion. Sakazuki knew that new recruit Kobe. He was an excellent young man in every aspect, but unfortunately, he didn't have much time. Otherwise, he could have grown into a top-tier Marine in the future. Many in the Navy were secretly apprehensive about the impending Great War, having lost the previous Summit War. Now, facing the even more powerful Beast Pirates, they felt even more uncertain, especially since several of their admirals and marshals had been killed by Kaido. It would be false to say they weren't afraid. Somewhere on an island in the New World, the news magnate Morgans excitedly gesticulated, saying, "This is fantastic. This will be a historic war. A true new era has begun. The world government's 800 years of history are about to end. Ha ha ha, hurry up, hurry up. Everyone get moving. We need to be there before the war starts. We need to broadcast this historic moment to the whole world. Understood? If anyone falls behind in their work, don't blame me for being ruthless. Immediately spread this historic battle news to the whole world." "Yes, boss." His subordinates all responded in unison. Morgans was now extremely important. Missing even a single detail at this historic moment would be a huge humiliation. He, Morgans, wanted to be the biggest news agency, and at this moment, he didn't care about the world government anymore, because he could see that the world government had little chance of winning against Kaido of the 100 Beasts. So why should he still be afraid of the world government like before? There was no need, he could just boldly continue. Besides, the world government probably didn't even notice it themselves, so why would they have the time to send him a message? Morgan simply didn't believe the world government had any spare energy. A week later, the Beast Pirates and world government personnel from both sides sailed towards a large, uninhabited island, as this was the location for the decisive battle. 100 pirate ships sailed across the sea, with Kaido seated at the head of the Beast Pirates ship. Redfield and Big Mom Charlotte Linlin stood on either side of Kaido, surrounded by elite officers. Big Mom Charlotte Linlin excitedly laughed. "This is making me so excited. I'm about to wipe out the world government. This is a great feat that even rocks couldn't accomplish. And now you, Kaido, are going to complete it." To be honest, Big Mom Charlotte Linlin still felt great admiration for Kaido. She didn't have the slightest aversion to being Kaido's subordinate. On the contrary, she felt it was a good deal. If she hadn't joined Kaido's team, she would probably be one of the eliminated parties. What kind of fate would that be? Big Mom Charlotte Linlin didn't dare think about it. Redfield crossed his arms and slowly said, "Charlotte Linlin, when the Gorosei launch their surprise attack, we'll be the ones leading it. Don't be like a car with a broken chain." "Hey," Big Mom Charlotte Linlin laughed in response. "Redfield, are you kidding? Would I be like a car with a broken chain? Don't wait until then. I'll be faster than you to go and kill those old geezers. After all, with Kaido's exposure, Big Mom Charlotte Linlin now has no fear whatsoever. And Redfield is the same. The Flame Ear King, Queen, Jack, Enel, Katakuri, Cracker, and others are all incredibly excited at this moment. The great battle is about to begin, the most glorious battle of their lives, and they've all started their fighting. Enel licked his lips sinisterly and said, "At that time, I want to find that damned, despicable Admiral Kizaru. After all, that guy really needs a beating." "Just right, Enel. You and Kizaru are both speed-type fighters," Queen replied, puffing on his cigar. After all, Queen himself didn't want to face speed-type fighters because he would be at a great disadvantage. Enel was the best choice. Katakuri, however, solemnly reminded them, "Even with Lord Kaido backing us, we can't be careless or overconfident. It's not impossible to capsize the boat in the ditch. Katakuri is right. We are also crucial elements in the battle. We can't cause trouble for Mr. Kaido." King Flame Air also solemnly replied. Cracker stood beside Jack the Drought, asking, "Big guy, aren't you afraid? What if you lose your life?" "What? Are you afraid? Whether good or bad, you're still an old hag from the sweet commander's side, so cowardly." Jack the Drought felt a little contemptuous of the cowardly Cracker. Cracker raised his eyebrows and said, "Jack the Drought, you bastard. How dare you call me cowardly? All right, arguing with you will only bring me trouble." At the same time, on the other side of the sea, nearly 200 warships were approaching on the surface of the sea. Above them are the elite navies and governments of the world. It could be said that, having defeated the beast pirates, the world government no longer dared to remain hidden behind the scenes, because victory or defeat hung in the balance. Losing meant nothing, while winning meant at least a slow recovery. Therefore, the world government decided to seize this opportunity. Leading the way was a large ship flying the world government's golden flag. Inside the ship's hold were high-ranking Marine officers, Gorosei members, and members of the Holy Knights. Only the Marines reacted strangely, because they had no idea the world government was so deeply hidden that above the Gorosei there was an even more powerful entity, possessing the Void Throne. If this news were to spread, the whole world would go crazy. Imagine how dark the world government is, constantly proclaiming justice, telling the world that the Void Throne represents fairness and justice. And what's the result? However, since things have reached this decisive stage, Sakazuki and the others said nothing more. What they need now is victory, not internal losses. Once they suffer internal losses, they will be completely finished. After all, Kaido of the 100 Beasts is no ordinary enemy. He's an existence capable of easily killing admirals. Here, facing Kaido of the 100 Beasts, they could all lose their lives. On the Marine team side, Kizaru, with a humble expression, whispered, "Sakazuki Momusagi Tokikake, what do you think of this problem?" Kizaru's intentions were very clear. He was asking for their opinions on the hidden issues concerning the world government since the Navy had been in a state of confusion for the past 100 years. Momusagi's expression darkened as she said, "I don't know how to explain it, but that guy named him is probably an existence who has lived for 800 years. 800 years. Tokikake gasped in disbelief. After all, 800 years of lifespan was truly exaggerated. For ordinary people, living to 100 years old was already considered very long-lived. Kizaru maintained his humble demeanor and said, "And now, Kaido of the 100 Beasts has probably also acquired the same ability to live a very long time as him. Could it be the user of the Op no Mi?" Trafalgar Law. Sakazuki immediately thought of the crucial factor. By this point, the world government's hidden secrets were no longer considered secrets to Sakazuki. Sakazuki continued, "It seems Kaido of the Beasts has no choice but to wipe them all out, damn it." "How terrifying, Sakazuki, you're so brave." Kizaru, looking even more subservient, responded to Sakazuki's shocked expression. At this moment, a CP member ran over and said, "Lord Gorosei, you're here for a meeting." "I know," Sakazuki said, pulling out a cigar, tossing one to Tokikake, and lighting one for himself. Sakazuki, Kizaru, Momusagi, and Tokikake then went over together. Upon arriving at the scene, seeing the Gorosei, the Divine Knights, who had already knelt before them, could only follow suit. And sat in the main seat, his entire expression devoid of emotion, like a vegetable. Shepherd Repeater respectfully said, Lord Im, we are about to arrive at Holy Star Island, and all our lethal weapons are fully prepared. Im slowly opened his eyes and said, there was once a battle with Joy Boy, but now in this battle, Joy Boy is no longer the main character. Im was lost in memories. So many years had passed. The Gorosei and Faigarland Garen Saint knew of Joy Boy's existence, while Sakazuki and his group were very suspicious. Only Kizaru knew a little about Joy Boy. That little bit of information concerned Joy Boy being the sun god Nika. As for the rest, Kizaru himself was not very clear. Faigarland Garen Saint said, Lord Im, you should lead the charge first. We'll handle the Beast Kaido. Garen, don't underestimate him. Beast Kaido's power has reached an unfathomable level. Ethan Baron v Nasujuro Saint, however, dared not underestimate him and quickly reminded him. In any case, Kaido's power is extraordinary, a fact they have personally experienced. They had previously disregarded Kaido, but now they truly fear his strength. Topman Valkyrie Saint also agreed, saying, on this point, I agree with Lord Im. When the time comes, you will need to put in some effort against Kaido. Faigarland Garen Saint had only interacted with Kaido once, so he didn't know as well as the Gorosei, who knew that Kaido could kill them without much effort. Faigarland Garen Saint replied, since you all say so, I have no objections. According to Faigarland Garen Saint, it was best if Lord Im intervened. At least they wouldn't have to bear the pressure of Kaido. In truth, given the life-threatening situation, they didn't dare confront Kaido of the 100 Beasts. Deep down, they all hoped that Lord Im would personally take action against Kaido of the 100 Beasts. Meanwhile, they were assisting Lord Im. At this moment, Sakazuki proactively said, then let me deal with Kaido of the 100 Beasts. Even if it costs me my life, I won't hesitate. Sakazuki didn't value his own life as much. The Gorosei, having lived for so long, were very concerned about their own lives. Only after Sakazuki volunteered did Im turn his attention to him. He wouldn't have paid attention to them until now, ever since Sakazuki and his group arrived. With his gaze fixed on Sakazuki, Im said expressionlessly, you're quite good. After this victory, I'll give you a Gorosei position. Thank you, Lord Im. I will certainly not disappoint everyone's expectations and will resolutely uphold justice to the end, Sakazuki replied firmly. As soon as Im uttered those words, all 5 Gorosei members turned their gazes towards Sakazuki, unable to believe that Sakazuki had earned Lord Im's attention with just a single sentence. Tokikake, meanwhile, looked at Marshal Sakazuki with envy. To be valued by that lord meant an instant rise to power. In truth, Tokikake wished his position could be swapped with Sakazuki's so he could gain Lord Im's appreciation. Unfortunately, that was impossible. Faigarland Garen Saint smirked, a knowing smile playing on his lips. He knew that within the Gorosei, positions were not open to outsiders. Lord Im's words clearly challenged this established rule, but that would have to wait until after the war ended. Even the Gorosei didn't dare say anything. For a long time, Lord Im had kept them tightly suppressed, and they didn't dare harbor any thoughts of resistance. Just now, they were simply showing signs of fear of death. However, now that Sakazuki had the opportunity to be promoted to Gorosei power, the 5 of them were unhappy, as their interests were threatened. At this moment, although the Gorosei were inwardly annoyed, they couldn't show it outwardly because Lord Im was still present. Im, with an unwavering expression, spoke again. When the time comes for Kaido of the 100 Beasts, I will naturally take action to deal with him. With Lord Im personally taking down Kaido of the 100 Beasts, it will naturally be nothing, the Gorosei respectfully replied. Im, after countless years, felt a renewed sense of excitement. After all, it had been many, many years since he had taken action. Shepherd Repeater respectfully said, we will quickly eliminate the enemy and focus our attack on Kaido of the 100 Beasts. Our world government will ultimately achieve victory. However, at this moment, Im didn't want to hear these words, and instead waved his hand, signaling them to withdraw. After Sakazuki and his men left, Tokikake immediately exclaimed enviously, Marshal Sakazuki, congratulations! You'll rise to an even higher position of power in the future. When you do, remember to promote your younger brothers, and they will wholeheartedly and responsibly assist Marshal Sakazuki. Tokikake had already started clinging to Sakazuki's coattails, fearing he might miss out. Who knows, he might even have the chance to ascend to the Marine Marshal's throne in the future. Thinking about all this, Tokikake couldn't help but tremble with excitement. After all, clinging to Marshal Sakazuki's coattails truly had many benefits. By then, Marshal Sakazuki would be called Sakazuki Gorosei. Momosagi, meanwhile, silently watched Tokikake. How come she hadn't noticed his expression at all? However, that was Tokikake's business. Momosagi wouldn't interfere. Kizaru, on the other hand, said with a subservient expression, "How terrifying." "Admiral Tokikake, aren't you going to be my direct superior in the future? Then you'll have to give me extra credit when that time comes. After all, I've worked incredibly hard." Kizaru's subservient words instantly made Tokikake feel very awkward. After all, this wasn't even happening yet, and Kizaru's words made Tokikake feel very embarrassed. However, Tokikake, with his thick skin, only felt a little awkward and replied, easy to say, Admiral Kizaru. Your efforts over the years are all clear as day. All right, the war is about to begin. Let's talk about these things after the war is over, when we're still alive." Sakazuki immediately called for a halt, because if they continued their conversation, the topic would become increasingly inappropriate. Just now, at the conference, Sakazuki proactively invited a confrontation with Kaido of the 100 Beasts. Sakazuki himself knew the danger involved, but his hatred for pirates meant he couldn't back down. Furthermore, Sakazuki didn't want to continue being oppressed by the Gorosei, as they had humiliated him many times. Now was the time to reclaim his honor. Kizaru, meanwhile, wore a smug smile throughout. He knew that what Lord M was promising Sakazuki was nothing more than a blank check. Everything depended on Sakazuki's ability to survive and win the war. Otherwise, everything would be meaningless. Suddenly, the alarm sounded. "Little pout, little pout, little pout, little pout," Kizaru said contemptuously. "How terrifying. Is this beast pirates taking the lead in launching a sneak attack? I didn't expect such swift movements. Damn it, attack." Sakazuki also raised his eyebrows. Although he despised the beast pirates' sneak attack, he couldn't deny that it had disrupted their rhythm. At this moment, a Marine colonel ran over and reported, "Marshal Sakazuki, outside, Red Field, Big Mom Charlotte Lin, Enel, Flame King, and Katakuri." 5 people descended from the air to ambush us. What? They sent those 5 as soon as they arrived. Although Sakazuki was somewhat shocked, he didn't lose his composure and said, "Counterattack." "Yes, Marshal Sakazuki." The Marine colonel respectfully replied and quickly went to relay Marshal Sakazuki's order. Momosagi said with a somber expression, "Being ambushed by the beast pirates like this makes us even more vulnerable. What's there to be afraid of? Since those Gorosei dared to launch an ambush, we'll just leave them all behind." Sakazuki clenched his fist, flames of lava erupting from it, his eyes gleaming with ferocity. Kizaru said with a cowardly yet helpless expression, "I still need more rest. It seems I won't be able to rest much longer." Above the fleet ships, Redfield, Enel, and the Flame King floated in the air, while Big Mom Charlotte Lin and Katakuri rode on Prometheus and Zeus respectively. Looking down at the warships below, Big Mom Charlotte Lin laughed maniacally. These fools, they only realized we were ambushing them after we arrived. Their reaction is incredibly slow. If they remain this slow, we'll wipe them all out." In any case, from Big Mom Charlotte Lin's perspective, this final battle of their campaign seems to be a 100% certain victory, especially with Kaido's betrayal. Therefore, there is basically nothing to be very afraid of. Katakuri flattered, if Mother herself takes action, she can definitely wipe out more than half of these Marines. Big Mom Charlotte Lin heard her son's flattery and smiled happily. "He's truly my son." However, Enel, on the other hand, was too lazy to listen to this nonsense and said directly, "Okay, let's not waste time talking nonsense. Let's get straight to the point. I've been impatient for a long time." As Enel spoke, lightning continuously appeared all over his body. Redfield calmly said, "Since we're following Lord Kaido's orders, let's act. We're giving the world government time to react." That's right, if they react, the effectiveness of our surprise attack will be greatly reduced. Flame Ear King nodded in agreement. After a moment, Enel took the lead in launching a surprise attack, a massive barrage of lightning raining down on the warships below. Shoot! 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 The Marine soldiers, armed with spears, continuously fired counterattacks, but to no avail. The result: just as they saw the massive lightning bolts about to strike them, they were all terrified. But unexpectedly, the lightning bolts were all blocked by countless beams of light. Boom! 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 The Marine soldiers all breathed a sigh of relief, saying in unison, "That's great." Admiral Kizaru intervened and stopped these lightning attacks. How terrifying! The beast pirates launched a surprise attack as soon as they arrived. Kizaru, with a disdainful expression, stepped forward, looking at Enel above. There was nothing they could do. Enel's Goro Goro no Mi fruit ability is offensive, but only his Pika Pika no Mi fruit ability is the best defense. Even Kizaru wouldn't want to be the first to strike. But since he's already made his move, let's go for it. Sakazuki, Momosagi, and Tokikake all stepped forward. Sakazuki calmly said, "Those beast pirates bastards, they really want to die." Marshal Sakazuki, "We should fight them on land. Fighting at sea is quite disadvantageous for us," Momosagi suggested. After all, fighting at sea, especially for a devil fruit user like Marshal Sakazuki, is quite disadvantageous. Besides, although Momosagi can use Geppo, it's still not comparable to flying ability. So being cautious is absolutely necessary. Tokikake, still in a hurry, replied, "Marshal Sakazuki, I agree with Momosagi's suggestion. After all, we'll have a slight advantage fighting on level ground." "I know," Sakazuki replied coldly. At this moment, Faigarland Garen Saint also stepped forward, saying, "I'll block their 5 men with you, leave the rest to them." "I'll deal with Beast Kaido later," Sakazuki calmly replied. His goal was only one person from beginning to end, Beast Kaido. Once he killed Beast Kaido, everything would be over, and there would be no more trouble. Faigarland Garen Saint didn't say anything more about Sakazuki's decision since the Supreme Commander here was Lord M. Sakazuki had previously asked Lord M for permission to go and confront Kaido of the 100 Beasts, so Faigarland Garen Saint naturally wouldn't say anything. After Faigarland Garen Saint left, Rob Lucci also came forward and said, "Let me handle the Flame King. Then I'll deal with Katakuri." Momosagi also chose her opponent. Initially, she wanted to face the Flame King, but since the CPO wanted to fight the Flame King, let him go. Momosagi was too lazy to compete with him. There was no need to do that. In the air, the Flame King said, "The other side seems to want a land battle. Then let's fight them in a land battle. I'll let them experience what true terror is." Big Mom Charlotte Lin excitedly licked her lips and said sinisterly. Redfield calmly said, "All right then, consider this a decisive battle. Let's enjoy the thrill of fighting." After 5 minutes, both sides arrived at this large uninhabited island. Redfield, Big Mom Charlotte Lin Enel, Flame King Katakuri, and Faigarland Garen Saint, Kizaru, Momosagi, Tokikake, and Rob Lucci faced off. Redfield vs. Faigarland Garen Saint. Enel vs. Kizaru. Katakuri vs. Momosagi. Flame King vs. Rob Lucci. Big Mom Charlotte Lin vs. Tokikake. At this moment, Tokikake said angrily, "Why? I'm fighting against Big Mom Charlotte Lin. I'm no match for that old hag." "Admiral Tokikake, you're an admiral after all. Please don't disgrace the world government," Rob Lucci reminded him coldly. Upon hearing this, Tokikake instantly became annoyed and angrily shouted, "Rob Lucci, you bastard, let's go exchange them. I'll deal with King Inflammatory Air. You go deal with Big Mom Charlotte Lin. You damned bastards, how dare you argue so loudly in front of me?" Enraged, Big Mom Charlotte Lin immediately launched an attack. Heaven is full of freedom. Zeus's thunderclouds instantly gathered a large amount of lightning, attacking the 5 people in front of him. Because their earlier arguing had made Big Mom Charlotte Lin extremely angry, she had to give them a profound lesson. Boom! 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 However, Big Mom Charlotte Lin's lightning attack was easily neutralized by the 5 people opposite her. Big Mom Charlotte Lin didn't expect to defeat these people by using lightning attacks. Faigarland Garen Saint dodged Big Mom Charlotte Lin's attack and rushed towards Redfield, saying, "Redfield, I've wanted to settle this long ago. I couldn't ask for more. Come on, Faigarland." Redfield was also very excited because this opponent before him could give him a good beating. Redfield took the lead in engaging in combat with Fire Garen Saint. Then Enel also launched an attack on Kizaru, taunting him, "Kizaru, you'd better give me a good beating later. Otherwise, I'll hunt you down for the rest of your life and chop you up to feed to the dogs." How terrifying, Enel, a user of the Goro Goro no Mi. You're saying that? You're scaring me. Kizaru was also very annoyed and frustrated. Why did this guy Enel always like to stare at him? He didn't even give him a chance to fish properly. Because of this, Kizaru was somewhat resentful and decided that he would definitely pierce Enel with a few holes later. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to vent his hatred. Momusagi, on this side, also lunged towards Katakuri, angrily shouting, "You pirates, you must die today. This sea cannot be plunged into darkness by you people." Enough pointless talk. I greatly admire Lord Kaido's words. Only the victors are worthy of speaking of justice. Katakuri's fist, enveloped in Bisashoku haki, struck towards Momusagi. On the other side, Rob Lucci also found the Flame King, mockingly saying, "A Lunarians who should have been exterminated, yet you dare to cause trouble here. Today, on behalf of the world government, I will completely kill you, this escaped fish." Haha. After blocking Rob Lucci's attack with a kick, the Flame King laughed, "Kill me. Do you have the ability, the world government, and you are all on the verge of death? And they still dare to speak so boldly." In King Yan's view, since Mr. Kaido had already taken action against the world government's demise was already in the countdown. These people were nothing more than powerless resistance. King Yan wouldn't be affected by any words. The most upset person was Tokikake, watching Big Mom Charlotte Lin charging towards him, cursing, "Disgusting. You want me to deal with Big Mom Charlotte Lin? You bastard, are you hoping I'll die sooner?" Although Tokikake currently held the title of Admiral, his true strength was only close to that of an Admiral. He was still a little short of a true Admiral level, while Big Mom Charlotte Lin possessed true Emperor level combat power. Tokikake himself facing Big Mom Charlotte Lin was extremely dangerous, which is why he was so frustrated. As for the others, they weren't as dangerous as him, because their opponents were all equally strong, and it was impossible to determine a winner in a short time. But it was different for him. Big Mom Charlotte Lin's strength truly surpassed his, so fighting Big Mom Charlotte Lin was tantamount to suicide. Tokikake didn't dare to exchange opponents with Momusagi, so he was very annoyed with Rob Lucci's choice of opponent. If it weren't for the great battle, Tokikake would have truly fought Rob Lucci, and he wouldn't have felt at ease at all. Big Mom Charlotte Lin swung Napoleon and slammed it hard on Tokikake's arm, angrily shouting, "Little brat, what are you looking at? You dare to think about other things while fighting me. You disgusting old hag want to kill me. I won't let you have your way." Tokikake also had good intentions. His main goal was to defend himself and prevent Big Mom Charlotte Lin from killing him. If he were to die, it would be truly the end of him, and Tokikake hadn't lived long enough. In the future, when Marshal Sakazuki ascends to the Gorosei throne, he could also be promoted to Marshal. Therefore, no matter what, he absolutely couldn't die here. Even if he died, he had to die of old age. Tokikake's actions were noticed by Big Mom Charlotte Lin, who scoffed dismissively, Do you think that just because you're constantly defending, I can't do anything to you? Little brat, who do you think you are, daring to play these games with me?" On the other side, the Redfield battlefield. Redfield smirked, secretly thinking to Fire Garland, someone over there is starting to fear death, constantly dodging and avoiding me. Redfield, you don't need to waste your time using useless schemes against me. Right now, I only have one goal, to defeat you. Fire Garen Saint completely disregarded this, his only objective being to defeat Redfield. He knew that even if he survived, he wouldn't last more than 10 years. After all, he was getting old, and if he could have a good fight now, it would be worthwhile. Redfield saw through Fire Garen's thoughts, saying, "So that's it. You want one last good fight, then I'll grant your wish." Katakuri, on this side, continuously used his Devil Fruit ability to launch long-range attacks, saying, "You women are quite level-headed, but unfortunately, you can't win this battle. Whether I can defeat you or not will only be known at the end." Momusagi continuously swung her flying slashes, engaging Katakuri in long-range attacks. Meanwhile, after their side took the lead in the battle, the Beast Pirates and the world government's main force also officially clashed, erupting in the final decisive battle. Beside Kaido, Nicole Robin slowly said, "Lord Kaido, Redfield and his group have already been dealt with. Do we need to send someone to ambush them?" "No need, this duel won't last too long," Kaido replied confidently. Nicole Robin nodded in agreement, because Lord Kaido was right, he could now crush everyone. Even the world government's hidden power, which had been concealed for 800 years, probably wouldn't last much longer in Lord Kaido's hands. Nicole Robin knew a little about it. It was the power of Lord Kaido's right eye, that mysterious eye with only 6 tamo, possessing unimaginable power. Black Maria, smoking, chuckled and said, "After this battle is over, our Lord Kaido will be the king of the world, and the whole world will be under his rule." "That's for sure, Lord Kaido is invincible," Genti replied firmly. Nami laughed and said, "That way, we don't need to participate in the battle, which is great." "If we were in danger, Lord Kaido would be worried." "Oh, come on, you're so thick-skinned," Bohong retorted to Nami. Nami basically ignored Bohong's rambling. And then Baron V. Nasujiro Saint said seriously, "Let's begin." "That's right, victory or defeat hinges on this one move." Shepherd Repeater's tone was equally serious, saying, "If we really can't get through, we'll be completely finished." Shepherd Repeater spoke very frankly. Whether their world government could defeat Beast Kaido concerned their future fate. Therefore, Shepherd Repeater never held back. Topman Valkyrie Saint's eyes turned cold as he said, "We must cooperate with Lord M to defeat Beast Kaido. With so many of us, working together gives us a chance to defeat Beast Kaido. As for Beast Kaido's subordinates, we don't need to worry about them. Focusing all our efforts on dealing with Beast Kaido is the most important thing for us to win." Marcus Mars Saint, on the other hand, was relatively calm and composed, saying, "Facing Beast Kaido, we must also be prepared to be killed. After all, Beast Kaido has the power to easily kill even Emperor-level fighters." "That's right." Saint J. Garcia Saturn, however, had an extremely gloomy expression and said, "If it really doesn't work out, let Seraphim team up to fight Beast Kaido. And the rest will be handled by the Navy to withstand the pressure. We will do our best to surround and kill Beast Kaido." In Saint J. Garcia Saturn's view, Beast Kaido was the most dangerous existence. As long as Beast Kaido was alive, their world government would live in constant fear. At this moment, Sakazuki came forward and said, "Beast Kaido's subordinates will still be dealt with by our Navy. When that time comes, I hope you 5 will give it your all when you fight Beast Kaido together. No, you are the Navy and the world government's criminals. Sakazuki, do you want to die? How dare you speak to us in that tone?" Saint J. Garcia Saturn glared viciously at Sakazuki. Initially, they thought Sakazuki was a very good dog, but now this dog has turned against its master. If it weren't for the current decisive battle, they would definitely cripple Sakazuki. The other Gorosei also had increasingly negative opinions of Sakazuki, feeling that he was just an untrained dog, seemingly obedient, but at the crucial moment, he turned against his master. This bastard Sakazuki is a prime example of that. Topman Valkyrie Saint warned Sakazuki, "Remember your place. Don't think you can sit on equal footing with us. We can eliminate you, the Marine Admiral, at any time." "Haha," Sakazuki scoffed nonchalantly. "Gorosei, do you dare eliminate me directly now? If you don't dare, then think about how to fight Kaido of the 100 Beasts. Don't keep wasting your energy like that, you old geezers." Sakazuki. Shepherd Repeater viciously pronounced Sakazuki's name. If Sakazuki hadn't acquired some common sense from Lord M, he would have been crippled by now. How dare he oppose the Gorosei? He's truly a master of deception. After the Great War ends, we must first get rid of Sakazuki. Sakazuki couldn't be allowed to continue his reckless behavior, and at this moment, all of the Gorosei shared the same thought. Sakazuki couldn't be allowed to continue. However, Sakazuki knew the Gorosei's intentions perfectly well. There was no need to antagonize them at this time. What had given Sakazuki such boldness was the promise made by Lord M earlier, which gave Sakazuki great confidence. He believed that if he ascended to the Gorosei throne, at least one of these 5 would be overthrown. Previously, Sakazuki didn't know this, thinking the Gorosei were the ultimate authority. But now, things were different. Knowing Lord M's existence, he would follow Lord M's footsteps. Lord Im was the ultimate authority, so it was natural for Sakazuki to follow Lord Im's footsteps. Continuing to follow the Gorosei, that would be outdated. Sakazuki, however, saw things very clearly. As long as he worked well for Lord Im, how could the Gorosei dare to do anything to him? According to Sakazuki, the Gorosei simply didn't have the guts. At most, they could only issue verbal warnings, but in reality, they couldn't do anything. However, because they were facing Kaido of the 100 Beasts, both sides were relatively restrained. Otherwise, they would have already erupted into a full-blown conflict. The Marines, like the soldiers, didn't know what the future held. They could only follow orders from above. Smoker and Hina stood together. Smoker, smoking his cigar, angrily said, "Damn it, how are we even conducting war now? It's simply chaos. We don't even know what to do, and all we know is that we've encountered the beast pirates and we've started fighting. Or is it that after the world government got involved, the Navy is no longer like a Navy at all?" Smoker was shouting, simultaneously expressing his helplessness, because this was simply not something he, a vice admiral, could decide. Hina replied, "Okay, Smoker, complaining here won't do any good. It's better to think about how to survive in a major war. After all, with our strength, it's very easy to die in the upcoming war. Death is death, but eliminating a few more pirates is worth it." Smoker wasn't afraid of death, but rather didn't want to feel so frustrated. The Navy was currently in complete chaos. Hina whispered, "I heard a rumor that above the Gorosei, there exists an even more powerful force within the world government. An even more powerful force than the Gorosei? Isn't that the Void Throne?" Smoker's reaction was quick and decisive. He immediately thought of the Void Throne, the only way to overpower the Gorosei. This made Smoker even more helpless. It turned out the world government was hiding such a vast darkness. Hina whispered again, "Don't talk nonsense about this, understand? Smoker, lest you bring trouble upon yourself, or you'll lose more than you gain. Let's wait until this war is over before discussing anything." "Okay, I know." Smoker was much more mature now, knowing when to do what. Hina felt relieved hearing Smoker's words. Otherwise, with Smoker's personality, he might really do something foolish, and dealing with it later would be troublesome. At this moment, Tashigi, who had been running slowly towards them, said, "Vice Admiral Smoker, Marshal Sakazuki has summoned all the generals to assemble and prepare for battle." Yes, Tashigi, when the fight starts, you absolutely must not leave my side. With your level of strength, you could lose your life at any moment." Smoker couldn't help but remind her. He was worried that Tashiji's insufficient strength could put even him in danger, let alone Tashigi, whose life was even more risky. No matter what, being by his side would at least make her safer. Tashigi quickly replied, "Okay, Vice Admiral Smoker, I know my strength is low, and I can't be of much use in war." Smoker's demeanor still impressed Hina somewhat. At least he cared about his subordinate. An hour later, the world government navy and the main force of the beast pirates officially began fighting. In an instant, blood and gore filled the air. The scene was unusually bloody. In the outer seas, the Supernova Group, the Blackbeard Pirates, and the Revolutionary Army were all secretly observing from afar. After all, this war was extremely crucial, potentially changing the entire geopolitical landscape of the seas. No matter what, after the war ended, it would undoubtedly be a mutually destructive outcome. Therefore, they couldn't miss this opportunity. If they lost it, they would never have another chance. The victorious side would certainly buy time, and it wouldn't be so easy to seize the advantage again. So they all wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to gain what they desired. Everyone was intelligent. The beast pirates and the world government were both aware of this, but currently, neither side had the spare time to deal with them. In the sky, there was also a news ship recording and disseminating war news, and Morgans was the one responsible. At this moment, Morgans felt that his manpower was insufficient because he couldn't disseminate all the war news, and this was what frustrated Morgans. At the same time, Beast Kaido suddenly appeared in the sky above him and the world government. "It's bad, Beast Kaido is here." Seeing this, the Marines were instantly stunned. Beast Kaido was not an existence they could fight against. Along with the Gorosei, Sakazuki, and Seraphim, went to look at Beast Kaido in the sky. To deal with Beast Kaido, Im had deployed all his elite top-tier fighters, even if the lower-level fighters were insufficient. The main goal was to defeat Beast Kaido. As long as Im could defeat Kaido of the 100 Beasts, this war would be a victory. Kaido looked down at the people below, a smirk playing on his lips. Devouring all of them would give him enough 6-Tamo Rinnegan to advance to 7-Tamo Rinnegan. His eyesight would then improve even further. The next moment, Kaido charged towards him. Im hastily ordered, "Stop Kaido of the 100 Beasts." Sakazuki, Gorosei, and Seraphim, a total of more than 10 people, all rushed towards Kaido of the 100 Beasts. However, these people were merely appetizers to Kaido. He could finish them off in 2 or 3 moves. Kaido unleashed his full firepower, subduing them all with a barrage of punches and kicks. Sakazuki was sent flying backward by a single punch from Kaido. His entire skull shattered. He exclaimed in terror, "Damn it, Beast Kaido's strength has increased even more. He's a monster." Beast Kaido's power truly seemed like a bottomless pit, with no limits whatsoever. Beast Kaido's fighting power also sent shivers down Im's spine. She had initially thought Beast Kaido would be slightly stronger than her, but she never imagined he would be so much stronger in reality. Im felt genuine fear for the first time. Defeating a Gorosei with this level of power was nothing compared to that. After Kaido knocked away a Gorosei with his spiked club, he chuckled and said, "I'm too busy to play with you guys." As soon as Kaido finished speaking, over 100 tree human clones emerged from the ground, each instantly enveloped in Bisashoku Haki. Sakazuki could hardly believe it, saying, "What? Kaido, how incredibly powerful is your Haki?" And yet, Ethan Baron v. Nasanajiro Saint also said gloomily, "We thought we had a chance of winning, but it turns out we don't even have the ability to threaten Beast King Kaido." Ethan Baron v. Nasanajiro Saint deeply regretted it. He should have killed Beast King Kaido before he fully matured. That would have prevented this passive situation. For them, this was a sure death sentence. Shepherd Repeater said, "Talking about this is meaningless. We can only persevere and continue fighting." The next moment, hundreds of tree men charged towards them. Each tree man, covered in Bisashoku Haki, possessed combat power approaching that of an admiral. Hundreds of tree men were enough to overwhelm them. Kaido, carrying his staff, slowly approached him, laughing as he said, "Now it's your turn. Make sure you please me, don't let me kill you in 2 or 3 moves." Im transformed into a gigantic monster and charged straight at Kaido. Boom! Boom! However, the result was predictable. No matter how Im attacked Kaido, he was relentlessly suppressed. In less than 3 minutes, Im was pinned to the ground by the black staff forged by the 6-Tamo Rinnegan. Saint J. Garcia Saturn exclaimed in alarm, "Lord Im, what should we do now? These tree men are unkillable, and now Lord Im has fallen. It's over. We've lost. This was a completely one-sided battle." Marcus Mars Saint's eyes darkened. The outcome was decided. They had no room for a comeback. Not even a tiny chance. A complete and utter defeat. Not far away, the reckless Sakazuki, who had been attacking like a madman, laughed loudly and said, "What a joke. We concentrated all our forces to fight the Beast King Kaido, and it turned into a laughingstock. With this kind of power disparity, no one in this world is a match for the Beast King Kaido, you bastard. Why did a monster like the Beast King Kaido appear?" Sakazuki was very unwilling, but helpless. Even the strongest, Lord Im, was quickly defeated by the Beast King Kaido. What could they do? Im, pinned to the ground by the black club, struggled to speak. "I am willing to surrender. The Navy and the world government will all be yours. Please spare me. What, killing you all? All of this will be mine anyway. Do I still need you to give it to me?" Kaido sneered. The battle just now was the reason he was able to kill Im so quickly. With Kaido employing the 6-Tamo Rinnegan, it's safe to say that those unaware of Kaido's abilities are essentially powerless against his sneak attack. If the sneak attack succeeds, the battle is practically over. A second later, Im's body was pierced by a branch, and a large amount of life force flowed into Kaido's body. Meanwhile, the Gorosei, Sakazuki, Seraphim, and others were also successively struck down by the tree men, transforming into nutrients that flowed into Kaido's body. As the large amount of life force poured in, Kaido could feel the bottleneck of his 6-Tamo Rinnegan beginning to loosen. It seems that after devouring them all, he can advance to the 7-Tamo Rinnegan. Morgans, watching from above using his phone to record the scene, stared wide-eyed, muttering foolishly, "Is this battle over already? Isn't the difference too great?" It was a war without any suspense at all. Those guys who wanted to take advantage of the chaos are definitely dead. No one in this world can stop Kaido of the Beasts anymore. I wonder if Kaido of the Beasts will continue to grow even stronger. Just thinking about it makes me so excited. When the Gorosei, and others all transformed into life force factors and flowed into Kaido of the Beasts, Kaido's 6-Tamo Rinnegan officially upgraded to a 7-Tamo Rinnegan. His eye power instantly increased by another level. The deaths of the Gorosei, Sakazuki, and others spread, and in an instant, the Marine and world government personnel were thrown into chaos. Jack, the drought-stricken pirate, excitedly and angrily shouted, "You bunch of weaklings, do you know how powerful our Lord Kaido is now? Do you still think you can stand against Lord Kaido?" Every member of the Beast Pirates became more and more excited with each kill. Nicole Robin, in the rear, also felt unbelievable, saying, "My God. So Lord Kaido's strength has reached this level. I thought we would experience a fierce battle. It seems I was completely mistaken. Lord Kaido is invincible." In short, Nicole Robin was speechless with admiration for Lord Kaido, not knowing how to describe his power at this moment. Nami, on the other hand, excitedly chimed in, "Following the mighty Lord Kaido, we can have as much treasure as we want in the future. Just thinking about it makes me so excited I can't stop." Black Maria, smoking, said in shock, "Lord Kaido has such immense power. It was unimaginable before." That's right, it means none of us are worthy of Lord Kaido. Junti also directly and clearly responded, saying that none of them were worthy of the current Lord Kaido. The women didn't have any objections to Junti's words, because what Junti said was the truth. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, when Kizaru learned of him and the others' defeat, he transformed into a beam of light and fled without a word. Kizaru didn't want to stay and court death. As Kizaru ran, the others followed suit, swaying back and forth. However, none of them possessed Kizaru's Pika Pika no Mi Devil Fruit ability. They were completely unable to escape. Redfield exclaimed, "If Kizaru runs away, how can you four escape? If you four also run and wait for Lord Kaido to arrive, how will we explain it? It's over." Garland Garen Saint's head was buzzing. He couldn't believe he'd been defeated so quickly, at such a terrifying speed. Rob Lucci, Momosogi, and Tokikake also looked equally displeased. Flame Air King spread his arms wide in excitement, saying, "As expected of Lord Kaido, his strength has reached an unimaginable level." The end.